This week on Two Bears, One Cave.
He told America I was the most racist comic in America. He did that.
This sounds like a terrible idea. Bert, you are full of terrible ideas.
Are you still watching Cosby Show?
Cosby did terrible things. He got in a lot of trouble. They canceled the show, right?
100%. Cheers.
Welcome to the program.
Hey guys,
As
brand new
always,
episode of Two Bears, One Cave. Hey Andrew,
my
is liver
co-host-
drainage a real thing?
My co-host.
No, is liver
Bert
drainage?
Kreischer.
Do people get their feet removed? Corey, you know nothing of how this podcast works.
Yeah.
This is my co-host Tom Segura.
Yeah.
Hello.
It's called Two Bears, One Cave.
Yes.
And
This is renowned professor and podcaster, Dr. Andrew Huberman, Stanford ophthalmology, neurobiology, and you have but you also,
I have an appointment in neurobiology, ophthalmology, and by courtesy in psychiatry.
yeah, I mean, most people do.
ooh, ophthalmology,
So,
huh? Try these
you
on
just-
and tell me what's going on with me. Is that what ophthalmology is?
Yeah, optometry is more about the fitting lenses and things of that sort.
He's-
Ophthalmology is medical issues of the eye and the portion of the brain that's related to vision.
Wow. See, listen, I told you. What did I tell you? We're surrounded by
Yeah,
greatness.
the greatness, and you got to talk a little bit more.
And so this is next to me is Cory Henry. You've heard me talk about him.
Yes.
I was moved to tears. I think I cried on the podcast talking about
You
it.
did. You
You
did.
have not heard that. He has no
that one
idea.
hasn't come out yet.
Well,
well, by the time, like now,
Yeah.
I'm saying. It
I
will
saw
come
him
out.
at the Blue Note, which is a jazz festival in Napa that my wife and I you got invited to too.
Yeah.
I went because of Nas.
Yeah. Or as your wife says, Naz.
Nas.
Yes.
And Corey, three people really. Corey and Damian,
JD Domi back.
and they moved me beyond feeling. And I wonder what I'd love to hear your instincts. So Corey is a renowned jazz musician. I will say it because he won't. And this was everyone when I came back and was like, dude, Cory Henry. They're like, oh, you like good shit. Yeah. I go, what? And they go, he's Stevie Wonder's favorite artist. I went, oh, so I got the vibes.
Yeah.
Andrew, jazz. So I love jazz. What does that do to the brain? And is there a different thing that happens in the brain when jazz music is being played?
Great question, because I've spent the last 3 weeks working on an episode for my podcast about music and the brain. So a couple of things just related to music more generally, which is that the emerging theory is that music, including singing and dance, probably emerged in the human brain before spoken language, which in many ways makes sense, right? Think about this. Using music without lyrics, you couldn't describe a can of soda, a car, or an apple, or a person in a way that I could understand it and everyone could understand it. But with music, you can describe and create an emotion in somebody else. That means that it's actually a more sophisticated language in many ways than spoken language. So we think of spoken language as so sophisticated. I can say, okay, Tom's sitting over here. He's my cousin. By the way, he is my cousin. This is on Wikipedia. He's wearing Adidas shoes like me, which may have a genetic link, may be a nature or nurture thing. We don't quite know. We don't question it. Wow. He looks like this. He speaks like this. I can explain a lot of things about him, and they're all true, but I can't create an emotion in you about Tom with spoken language unless I tell you about something he did. Maybe that'll evoke some sense of delight or disgust or whatever it is, depending on the story. But with music, you can play one tone or one series of tones. I'm not a musician. I'll reveal that by how I describe music. But a motif, people can hear like just one note played on a clean background, on a trumpet or a saxophone, and feel something. Mm-hmm. So in many ways, what we now understand based on brain imaging, based on a lot of genetics and other tools, is that there are dedicated circuits in the brain and body that music taps into and can create the sense of emotion. And one of the more interesting ones, I think, is that we have our breathing apparatus, a muscle called the diaphragm, moves our lungs, et cetera. But a lot of music will actually tap into the neural connections of the diaphragm and lungs, and our body will flutter at the same frequency as a note that's being played. So this is crazy. That means that your body is being used as a sort of instrument from the inside while you're listening to instruments and sometimes vocals from the outside. And so your body is literally resonating with the similar frequencies as the music that you're listening to. You are one of the instruments.
That's incredible.
When you're listening. So when you go to see, and when you listen in a room, it's very different than when you listen with headphones, which is very different than when you listen with very high quality headphones.
Yeah.
But there is nothing like live music, because when you are present to the live music, your body is part of the instrumental of that music. Okay, so there's an internal, like it's geysering up out of you while it's coming in through your senses.
That's
so remarkable.
It's insane.
so I told you
That's
how good he is.
insane.
I think you're gonna have to sing now.
As long as you don't make me sing.
Well, it's crazy that you say that, because music is actually the truly the only universal language. You know, like people speak and in many ways you go, well, English is like the world's kind of language. Now you have to, if you want to be a part of it, you speak English, but you can perform music here, Japan, Spain, and elicit emotion from people who go. You could be singing in English, and the music and singing evokes the same thing from everybody who doesn't even understand. Like I've listened to songs in Portuguese, and I don't know what the hell is going on, but I'm getting emotional and really in. I'm like, I love this song. I don't even know what the song's about.
Yeah.
Right? But you can also communicate intent with music across cultures. So like war music, drums, doom, doom,
right,
doom, doom. That whole thing.
Or love songs,
love songs, or the lightness. Like so, you can communicate emotion through these collections of sounds that are universal. And so we know that there are circuits in the brain that are separate for this, that are dedicated to this, because people who are aphasic, who can't speak, oftentimes can still sing, or they can create or follow a melody.
That's insane.
Yeah, for a lot of people talk nowadays and are concerned about, understandably, things like dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's dementia, just age-related dementia. And people who listen to anywhere from 30 minutes to 60 minutes of music per day on average, their cognition gets better. And that's because it's tapping into a whole set of neurochemical programs and things that, brings the person alive. And from the inside. I mean, this is what I find so interesting about music is, yes, it's coming in through the ears, just like when you look at a beautiful painting, pick your favorite artist, you see that and you go, whoa, and you feel something inside. But you're not actually recreating the painting in your body. You're recreating it into your brain to some extent. But with music, the vibrations of the music are having a deep, resonant impact on your body. And there's a lot of facial expressions that go with it. I actually put out the call for questions on social media the other day. I'm doing an episode on music in the brain. What do you want to know? And my favorite question of all was, what explains bass face? like everyone makes the same face, right? I don't know if dogs and other animals are doing it too, but there's something fundamental there in terms of how we're all wired. And of course, lyrics can do a lot. I love poetry. I love lyrics. There's certain musicians like Joe Strummer, Bob Dylan. For me, like the lyrics don't even make sense, but they feel like they're saying something that fundamental, even though if you just were to read the lyrics, it wouldn't mean anything.
You know what happens to me? I talked about this, and I felt so validated that other people were like, "Oh, me too," and musicians also were jumped. I revealed that I go, my whole life when I listen to music, I have to make a real effort to hear the lyrics, I hear somebody singing as an instrument. So it's like when you're singing, I go and then someone's like, "Do you know what this song's about?" And I'm like, "No." I have to really pay attention, because the voice singing to me, to my ear, registers as almost like the strings or the drum. And then
English isn't his first language also.
That's very true.
We're all tuned to these fundamental sounds that it starts to cross over with language. Like if you hear somebody shrill in pain, we all know that feeling. Or like an animal or a child, especially in desperate pain, it just pulls on you. It's not a choice. I mean, if you don't feel that, you might be a sociopath. Yeah. Okay. You are a sociopath. If you don't feel somebody else's, but like a child's pain when they're in pain, like there's something wrong with you, or an animal, right? But then there's also these like deep guttural sounds, right? So the more primitive the sounds, the more we relate to them. And music is tapping into all of that. And music, I know 0-1 about how to play music, but I love listening to music. I'm the opposite. Even though we're related, I'm the opposite. This is nature nurture. I I like lyrics.
Yeah.
I love the poetry of it. I memorize lyrics. I hear them in my head. I actually prepare for podcasts by singing songs in my head. It gets me into a rhythm. But music in terms of chords, harmonics, melodies, all that, I mean,
I feel like
I don't understand
everything
it at all.
But it. Like I have to make a very, very strong effort to go, oh, this is what this person is saying. Otherwise, it just feels melodic to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally.
How early did you start playing music?
I started playing when I was 2 years old. Yeah, my mama taught me how to play. She was the lead choir director and musician at the church we grew up in, Brooklyn. Grew up in Brooklyn.
Like back when Brooklyn was Brooklyn, or when they
Brooklyn, nah, Brooklyn was Brooklyn. I was
When
in
they
best.
belts and shoes.
Nah, they just started doing that.
There are a lot of studies now that show very conclusively that kids that start playing an instrument prior to 6, singing and playing instruments, especially with other people, their brain connectivity is much more extensive. They're smarter. They really are. They really are, and their brain maintains that increased connectivity well into adulthood, and it's something that can be reactivated. For people like me who completely failed at learning how to play any instrument whatsoever, it's not completely hopeless, but it would be a lot of work. But the fact that
It's an hour a day, man.
An hour a day, yeah. The fact that that's how I talk about exercise and all the other stuff. So I need to internalize
So
that.
funny, I was going to smoke a joint for an hour.
I mean,
Does everyone go about light a joint?
no, totally.
Can you not be around it?
Yeah, I don't partake, but it's legal in California.
I know,
so
but
yeah.
I don't know if you
No,
can.
feel free.
Oh,
No, that's
Are you
fine.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Can I ask a
Are
weird?
you gonna
Tom,
ask?
you okay?
Okay.
Can I ask an interesting question to both of you guys? It's a two-parter. Well, it's a two-parter. I'm going to ask the second part in a second. When you play jazz, it is more of your brain is telling your fingers what to do spontaneously. Like as I watch you play, you are dictating the rhythm of the evening. It's all improvised. Not all of it, but it's primarily like watching you play. It's just so inspired and improvised. Number one, how do you connect your fingers to your brain that way? And do you see the piano other than just white and black things? And do you see that, or do you feel it? And then secondly, I want to know, how do I tap into that? How do people tap into that? Because as I watch him, I'm so inspired by just you fucking around. Like you playing with Amazing Grace last night and taking us on a ride. You take us on a ride. And that improvisation is what I'm obsessed with. But I'm curious to know how your brain works when you play music.
Yeah, when I'm playing at this point, I feel like I think it's all a feeling, like I spent a lot of time at my instrument to be able to play what I want to play as a musician. And then it's a matter of like taking what I've learned or what I've like practiced and making it a voice. I look at the piano as a voice. Like I don't see them as like keys or whatever. I'm trying to like talk, like I'm trying to have a little conversation and take you on the ride. And I noticed recently over the last few years that I'm really tapped in when my eyes is closed.
I saw that.
It's something about like when I'm not looking at the keys, or if I'm if my attention here in my head is elsewhere, where my hands are just like, oh, it's time to fly. And I feel like I'm flying at that point where it comes down to like, the improv sections of my show, especially like Amazing Grace, because I play it all the time and I like to change it up and do different things. But I feel like I'm trying to remain at some kind of free state where I'm not thinking about the keys or the notes or the chord changes.
Free state is the art.
Yeah.
What's the easiest way for people to access that free state?
Goodness. Okay. Well, first of all, the improvisation piece is really important because, your brain it does a lot of things. Your brain controls your heart rate, makes sure your muscles can move. It does all that stuff. But beyond all of that stuff, maintaining body temperature, et cetera, your brain is mostly a prediction machine, right? Like early in life, you learn that objects fall down, not up. That's kind of a fundamental rule. You learn who your parents are. They caretake, by voice, by smell, by sight, et cetera. And as we go through life, sure, like for instance, it's the first time I've been here at your studio today. There are a bunch of novel objects, new people that I'm meeting, et cetera. But nothing is so outside of my expectation, especially given that it's you, Bert, and you, Tom. So outside my expectation, we won't talk about that thing that happened on the stairwell, that I'm not in a mode of like, whoa, like this is unexpected. But The brain has a particular neurochemical called dopamine. We've all heard of it as dopamine hits. Everyone thinks dopamine's associated with pleasure, but dopamine is really about motivation and anticipation. And so if we're listening to, say, Amazing Grace, a song that I recognize, and I'm expecting it to be played a certain way, sung a certain way, and then all of a sudden you hold one note much longer. I'm just making this up. I haven't heard you play yet, although I'm excited to go see you play. I am going to go see you play, by the way.
Okay.
And you hold that note longer, then all of a sudden that dopamine, we have many dopamine circuits in the brain, but that circuit flips on and starts releasing this neurochemical, which heightens my attention. Like, what is happening now?
Yeah.
What's going to happen next?
It's the calm before the holiday storm, but you can prepare your e-commerce business for the holiday rush now just by using ShipStation. Whether you're shipping from your house or a warehouse, ShipStation can help increase your profitability. Save time automating your shipping and returns in the ShipStation dashboard and keep costs down with industry-leading carrier discounts while your holiday orders roll in. You want to get on that now so you're not pressed when it's time to really get those shipments going. And it's easy to see everything that's been ordered and everything that's gone out via all the different carriers with their incredible dashboard. Easily automate shipping tasks and manage orders in one simple dashboard. You can quickly and easily update crucial order information and reduce errors. It also has effortless integration everywhere you sell online, including Amazon, Etsy, eBay, Shopify, and more. Also, manage orders, print labels, compare rates, optimize every shipment, and automate delivery notifications. Over 130,000 companies have grown their e-commerce businesses with ShipStation. And 98% of companies that stick with ShipStation for a year become customers for life. Set your business up for holiday season success with ShipStation. Go to shipstation.com/cave today and sign up for your free 60-day trial. That's shipstation.com/CAVE.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Do you ever find that just as you're falling asleep, your brain suddenly won't stop talking? You have racing thoughts right before you go to bed at the most inopportune moment. That happens to me all the time. Last night, it hardcore happened to me. I had to sit up out of bed. I was by myself. Leanne wasn't with me. I was on the road doing Oxnard, and I had to sit up and literally talk myself off a ledge. It's normal. It turns out, so just so you know, one of the great ways to get those racing thoughts to go away is to talk them through with someone. Therapy gives you a great place to do that, so you can get all these negative thought cycles out of your head and find some mental space and possibly even a little emotional space. I've been in therapy for a very long time now, for a very, very long time. I love it. I love it because I'll write things down and then I'll be like, I put them in my phone. I go, I need to talk about this in therapy. I do it online because for me, it's so simple online. And if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's designed entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire and you can get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Get a break from your thoughts with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/bears today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/bears.
The thing about dopamine is you adjust to it pretty quickly. This explains a lot of addictions as well. So then if you do that every third note, well then, yeah, you might be familiar with that.
As I put the joint in my mouth, he goes, this is playing a lot of
We can talk about cannabis if you want. It has interesting uses, both interesting health uses and addictive potential. Okay, I just pissed off all the pot smokers.
I want to know about it. I want to know about it too.
But the dopamine, the dopamine, it's all about the levels now relative to where they were a few seconds ago or a few minutes ago. So pretty soon, that novelty, like, oh, he's going to hold this note. Okay, he's going to hold this note. And then you stop it and you go back into the regular singing of Amazing Grace. For instance, I'm just, again, making this up. Mm-hmm. So the music system, the system in the brain that responds to music and to speech, it has certain expectations. Your brain is already trying to guess what I'm going to say next. And so if I suddenly start speaking, in Shakespearean prose, you'd be like, whoa, what is that? Now, the important thing about music is that in order to make it sound right, it has to obey certain rules. Okay, It can't just be a cacophony of crazy sounds.
Right.
If you start playing
that's really interesting.
The triangle,
it has to obey certain rules. You're right, because if it doesn't, all of a sudden you're like, that's wrong. Right.
Yeah.
But your brain,
and you automatically know.
Yeah, how the fuck do our brains all know?
Your brains know. Your brain knows.
Just like comedy. Right? Just like comedy.
Oh, it's just like comedy.
Like in comedy, like I go see comedy.
And then I punched my wife in the face and I was like, the fuck?
Right, don't do that. The like for instance,
Not
I saw
cool,
Tom.
bro.
I saw Tom do comedy at the Belly Up in Aspen recently. He killed. It was amazing, and I can start talking about different bits he did. That's what they're called, right?
Right.
Okay. But I've seen certain versions of comedy by Tom and others where they're telling a story, and you're like, okay, here's a story, and then you're like, oh no, this isn't going to go that way, is it? And then I have to imagine that there are two possibilities. I'm thinking, okay, either he's going to confirm my suspicion that this is going to end really badly, or there's going to be some flip at the end where all of a sudden it's something completely different, and that's the pop, right? Same thing with music.
And the same
with
dopamine
music.
thing is happening
Absolutely.
if you're watching, right?
This is whether or not you're talking about Bitcoin, the euro, the American dollar, the Canadian dollar, whatever, the peso. There's only one universal currency of value in the brain. We place value on what we're experiencing, value on monetary units. It's all dopamine. Now, there are other neurochemicals in the brain that are important, but it's a neurochemical system for saying, oh, what was happening before is cool, but what's happening now is way cooler because it's different. Oh, wait, no, it's too different. It doesn't really obey the rules. And you're not thinking about this consciously. This is what's amazing. So much of this is happening subconsciously. And music, played correctly, sung correctly, taps into your subconscious about that just feels right. Because it is right. It's obeying certain mathematical rules, certain physical laws of the universe that are correct. And I can promise you this because if I were to sing Happy Birthday and then inject the Sesame Street theme song and then try and sing Amazing Grace in there, you guys would just say, well, in addition to having a terrible voice, Andrew, that just sucked. It wasn't interesting. It's not interesting the same way that a painter, like some kid can go see a Jean-Michel Basquiat painting or something and go, oh, or like a Jackson Pollock and go, oh, that's just a bunch of paint thrown on a thing. I'm just going to throw paint on a canvas. And that kid isn't up in the MoMA. Right? The person who can tap into something fundamental about the way the brain works. In other words, you're a neuroscientist, you're a neuroscientist, you're a neuroscientist. And you don't even realize what you're doing is you're tapping into something fundamental about how the brain works and delivers reward.
The thing that you're pointing, that I'm realizing about the dopamine thing and the unexpected is that that's for sure why people are like awed in comedy shows by crowd work. Because what happens is crowd work is like, what's up, man? And somebody says, and you see that it mesmerizes people and they get into this place of glee because it's happening in the moment. It's all unexpected things. And you can see that it shifts the energy of a room when somebody does like in the moment crowd work. It's all unexpected. It's all like these, it changes the dynamic of what's happening.
It's like if I were, Picasso were here and we're literally throwing different colors of paint at him and he's putting it up into something beautiful. That's why, every once in a while you'll see a post or a video, and I don't want to disparage anyone's art form, but you'll see these people who are like, they're painting something that doesn't look like anything, and then they flip it over and it's a face.
Yeah.
Like that's not the lowest form of art, but it's getting down there. Because what is it? It's basically just playing with one single rule about visual perception, which things drawn upside down, you can't comprehend them, you flip them upside down and you go, oh, it pops. But that's sort of a gimmick, right? It's a gimmick. That's not new art. That's not new art. That's just old art done upside down. Okay, so that rule is kind of like, okay, cool. Sort of like if I do a pun, and I won't even try and do that, or I do a knock-knock joke, it's like, okay, like it's kind of funny, little bit funny, but not really, because the real beauty of comedy is when it took my brain, because I'm in the audience when it comes to comedy, always, I'm not funny, and you're converting a rule about how I thought the world was going to go. Like you're talking about a serial killer. Like, oh my God, like that's really dark. I don't like serial killers. I won't even watch the Dahmer thing. I'll pay money not to watch the Dahmer thing. And then at the end, because you'll probably say something like, I don't know, that I don't like something super offensive. And then all of a sudden everyone just laughs because the brain goes, oh my God, I can't even comprehend. I never would have gone there.
It's such a release. Right? It's a release.
That's right. It's a release of tension. You're also, so just like with music, bringing it up through the body, you've got people, quote unquote, on the edge of their seats. Yeah. You've got people in tension and then relaxed. Yeah. It's a form of spoken intercourse.
Yeah. And there's this thing about comedy shows where there's an unspoken agreement when you enter the room, audience and performer goes, there's no point in me going up on stage to be like, I'm going to say things all the right way that are the correct thing to say in all scenarios. Because that's that's polite society. That's what you get outside of the room.
Right.
Yeah. In the room, the thrill, the joy, I think, for the performer and the audience is that you're gonna say the thing that they're like, this should not be spoken.
I get scared sometimes when I see you guys do comedy. I get scared. I'm like, oh no, like they're gonna say something, and like I don't know what's gonna happen, but it feels scary. Right, I go to the amusement park. I like roller coasters. You look at a roller coaster, that unless you're shorter than the thing, like you're not going to fly out and die, most likely, right? So you're like, it's scary, but there's trust.
I hate most likely.
Yeah, well, it does happen every once in a while.
Yeah,
usually when someone didn't pull the thing down or
carnivals.
Right, exactly. Pick your amusement park carefully.
Fuck those.
But when I go see comedy, I'm afraid. I'm also afraid of the person up there bombing.
Yeah,
so whenever I go to New York, my sister and I go to New York every year for our birthdays in September, and I love going to the Comedy Cellar. And we've gone every year, and I've seen some amazing sets, just like, whoa, that was amazing. And then I've seen some just dreadful ones, and you as the audience want to crawl under the table. Yeah, and that reflects that our nervous systems are always interacting. And some people delight us just their face, right? Like when Tom does his impression of his kids, especially, I don't want to play favorites here, especially of his youngest son. Oh my God. I've thought about that just driving along these last couple of days, and I start cracking up inside. It's delightful because he sees something in his kids. They see something in him. And so you're tapping, it's like an intimacy. It's a parent-child relationship that's, hilarious. And yet I've never met his kids. I don't know their names, or any of that. I mean, we're cousins, but we're warming up to the family reunion.
Yeah. I'm obsessed with the concept that there are unspoken rules. And if you break the rules, because I always think of comedy as like, I'm trying to break the rules, but I'm not really, because if you break the rules, you say the thing that shuts it down. Michael Richards broke the rules.
Yeah.
That was like the perfect example of rule breaking. Like there could have been rules in place that he did something crazy, but he didn't break the rule.
But he stepped out of performance and went into
I think he was
personal rage.
I thought he was trying to.
Who's Michael Richards?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
It was a bad fucking example.
Okay.
Fucking Kramer.
On Seinfeld?
Yeah, you haven't.
Listen, when I was in undergrad,
wait, hold on. Let's stop the fact you've had your nose in books so deep, you didn't know what happened with Kramer.
I didn't have social media till a few years ago. I'm pretty niche on my knowledge.
Do you know what happened with Kramer?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
It was bad.
Wait, let's play a game. What doesn't Andrew Huberman know?
I don't know. There's a lot I don't know.
Are you still watching Cosby Show?
No.
Okay, all right. We got that one.
He's had a wild couple of years.
No, I know Cosby did terrible things. He got in a lot of trouble. They canceled the show, right? No. They didn't cancel the show.
What, the Cosby
Keep going.
They must have ended the show.
No, it's still playing.
30 years. The show's been off for years.
All right, clearly I'm the joke. I never watched much show. I watched The Wonder Years. I like that show. I own the DVDs.
So, man, this is such a good thing that you tapped into.
I watched Ozark. I watched The Wire. I watched Mad Men.
Okay. Ozark, when Laura Linney gets fucked from behind on that first episode, it was so real. It was so real. There's
that's what you took from Ozark?
Dude, that's when I was like, let's pay high-end actresses to do porn because they tap into how they really fuck. Like a porn star. You ever fucked a porn star?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
You should.
Okay.
I mean, if I were you, are you married?
No.
Oh, come on.
There's still so many possibilities.
Yeah.
There's still we got a lot. Well, I'll give you my Christmas list. So
we should get a bunch of porn girls to come see you play Amazing Grace and then have at it afterwards.
I'd be done.
Wait,
this sounds like a terrible idea.
Wait, hold on.
Bert, you are full of terrible ideas.
No, he's definitely getting it.
Laura Linney, when she has sex in Ozark, she does it like a real woman.
Right, it's
like
not
a real woman, not like porn stars like, fuck my pussy, do it raw. And you're like, no one talks like that. No one, do it like a real woman, like out my shoulder or whatever. And Laura Linney, when she has sex from behind, she did it like she was actually.
I know what you're saying.
So you watch all of Ozark, and that's what you lifted from the series.
Exactly.
My takeaway.
That's what you lifted from the series.
Yeah, season 1. It's the first
It's
episode.
so good.
Yeah.
The series is amazing.
I made it to season 3.
Ozark shot in this
great.
kind of blue-black tone.
Yeah.
That it's eerie, right? It's really eerie all the time. Like you notice even when it's just normal dialogue, like someone's walking up to a hotel room and talk to someone, you're like, something bad's gonna happen. It's constantly
the cast is
eerie.
incredible.
It's amazing.
It's crazy that Bateman directs like the majority of the episodes. Did you know that?
Oh, really?
Like, yeah. So he's in it, and he directed at least half of those episodes.
He's got a crazy diet.
Jason Bateman.
Yeah, I saw that
Really?
doc on him. He's got a podcast called Smartless.
Yeah.
And they did a doc, and he
Well, this is a good segue.
what?
Because
Corey, I used to be fat. Actually, you met me when I was fat.
But he went on the Jason Bateman
I
diet.
believe, Corey, this would have been about a month ago.
About a month ago,
Yeah.
he was fat.
Oh, well, thank you. That's how most people are supposed to act.
Okay.
So, just to bring everybody up to speed, about a month ago, Bert had a come to Jesus moment where he was like, I need to get healthier.
It was at the Jazz Festival.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was drinking. I mean, we just wake up, start drinking all day, and then
And you were touring a bunch.
I
and you were
just gotten off tour.
the festival.
I was partying a lot. And
Drinking
then,
a lot, eating like a lunatic.
You know, it's bad when you see Andrew does not like alcohol. He's not a fan of alcohol.
I mean, it's not that I am not a fan. I think I see a lot of health issues, psychological
we don't
issues
need
with
to
alcohol.
rehear
But Andrew knows all the science.
He knows all the science. So I would
It's not good for
would
you.
see his stuff, and I'd go like, "The fuck does he know?" And then I'd like swipe through it, and then all of a sudden I was bloated as fuck. My face was huge. Everything, my ankles were swelling, like
and everybody was noticing.
and everyone was noticing, and I was like, "All right, that's it." So I did a cleanse first, like a Prolon. It's a mimicked fast, cell rejuvenation thing. I did that. Went to the cardiologist, and I was like, I just don't know what to do with my diet. My cardiologist was like, fucking keto. And I was like, really? He goes,
Your
"Dude,"
cardiologist said that.
my cardiologist, he goes,
Interesting.
there is so many benefits to being in ketosis. He goes, they're proving that right now it is stopping the growth of brain tumor cells, that it doesn't feed cancer cells. The sugar is what cancer grows off of. And he goes, most importantly, it's great for inflammation, which you have a lot of, and it's great for your liver. He goes, it gives your liver a break to process fat instead of sugar. And he goes, go keto. And then he gave me another guy's number, and he was like, get exogenous ketones, stay in ketosis for as long as you can. I think also without that, when you're in ketosis, you're not drinking. You can't drink. You can if you were going to break it, but I don't want to break it. So I've been in ketosis for a month, and I've been not drinking for a month, like since the Jazz Festival, whatever that was.
How do you feel? And we should be scientists about this. You did two things, so it's hard to know which one is leading to the positive effects, right? You stop drinking alcohol, so that's one variable. And then the other is that you are now on ketogenic diet, which is another variable. So you could be feeling better because of both of those things. You probably are. But I'm just curious how you feel in terms of, let's just break it down into, like, how's your sleep?
Pretty amazing.
Great.
Like,
and compared to what it was?
well, yeah. My sleep was always like, I never woke up like, okay. I would wake up like,
Do you know what you told me like 6 months ago? I was like, how do you feel since X, Y, and Z? And you go, I never notice anything because I'm drinking and partying. You're like, I don't know whether today or
I couldn't tell you what hungover
anything
felt
feels
like
like.
versus not hungover. Like I just knew a homeostasis of like waking up, and what's interesting is I would wake up in a panic with like a fire under my ass, going, all right, we got to work out, we got to do this, we got to do that, now I wake up and I'm like, oh, that was cool. I was raising cubs.
Anxiety. A lot of people who drink feel less anxiety while they drink, but then they feel much more anxiety outside of drinking.
Searing.
You know,
Searing.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about death? Every fucking morning when I drank, my first thought, one day it goes dark, one day it goes dark.
existential dread.
Oh my God.
Can I ask you? I want to go through the different things of sleep and the other aspects of health and well-being. But how old were you when you took your first drink?
If you have a family like I do, you know how much your loved ones depend on you. In a worst-case scenario, you wouldn't want them to worry about money. You have a responsibility. If you have people that count on you to be there to take care of them if something were to happen to you. That's why Policy Genius knows how valuable your time is. That's why their technology makes it easy to compare life insurance quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius has licensed award-winning agents who can help you find the best fit for your needs. They work for you, not the insurance companies. That means they don't have an incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. Your loved ones deserve a financial safety net. You deserve a smarter way to find and buy it. Head to policygenius.com/2bears1cave or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/2bears1cave.
Oh, fuck it. 14.
And then did you start drinking relatively heavily at that time? No,
22.
in college or after?
I would say in college, drank like a regular college kid. Maybe
I went to UC Santa Barbara,
Yeah.
which discovers alcoholics.
Yeah.
Right, it's always been a big party school.
Alcoholic's a weird fucking word.
Now
It's overused. It's like saying
true. They now say alcohol use disorder is another one. Listen, it's different things for different people. Some people it's one or two at the end of the day, and they quote unquote need that drink. Other people, they have just one drink or even half a drink, but it dramatically changes their personality.
Yeah, those are
Other
bad
people,
ones.
they drink to blackout drunk.
Yep.
Other people, they're like the Don Draper character in Mad Men. They can drink, and the next morning there they are looking, all right angles and working, and you're like, whoa. Like how they do that.
Yeah.
A lot of genetic variation in terms of how quickly people metabolize alcohol, how thoroughly they metabolize alcohol. I'm not going to do the whole podcast episode on alcohol because I did that for my podcast. But
Do you drink?
It is poison, right?
It is
Let's just be
poison.
honest. It makes you feel the way it does because it is poison.
Yeah.
If you see articles that say 1 or 2 glasses of wine per day, resveratrol, health benefits. Here's the deal: 0 alcohol is better for you than any alcohol, but the cutoff, if you're not an alcoholic or somebody prone to alcohol use disorder, et cetera, and you're of age, probably 2 drinks per week should be the upper ceiling. Beyond which,
That's not a guy with
well,
no
there are a lot of
arms.
data now out of the UK Brain Bank that's showing that the more you drink, for every additional drink you have per week, a little bit more brain atrophy, shrinking of the brain and loss of neurons.
My brain is firing hot.
Yeah,
I noticed my flow of speaking is going on stage. My brain is working so much better.
This is so good. This is so good. You're such a vigorous guy. Like you have so much vigor. The word that comes to mind when I think of you, Kreischer, is not alcohol. It is robust. There's like this robustness to you, right? And I always knew, because we've been in touch about this for a little while now, and Tom and I talk, and like we talk behind your back and all that.
Everyone talks behind my back.
That
It means they love you, Cory.
Lovingly.
That's what it means?
Lovingly, which is that the prediction was always that if you cut out alcohol and you're exercising and you're eating right, that you are going to feel so much better. Not that you're going to feel worse and you're going to miss it. So I'm here. I have a hidden agenda, which is my hope is that I saw you post on social media. You're not going to have another drink until you hit 230 pounds. I think you should cut it out for good and watch your creative work and everything else skyrocket. Yeah. And I'm sure there are a bunch of fans that are like, oh my God, does that mean I can't drink while listening to Kreischer? No, we're not talking about them. We're talking about you.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not here as a addiction counselor. I don't tell people what to do. Yeah. Right. I'm not a physician. I don't prescribe anything. I'm a professor. I profess a lot of things. But I profess that if you were to stay off alcohol completely, not only are you going to live a lot longer, but that robustness is going to be exponentially greater. It'd also be fun to just do comedy and live life through that lens. There's so much more to discover. And no, I'm not telling you have to quit smoking weed.
No, I know I will. I don't think. I mean,
because weed's a whole other story. Some people can do it safely and be fine with it and be very functional. Other people can't. Yeah. It's a very binary distinction there. There are a lot of young males who smoke very high potency THC, and it craters their life. Can even lead to increased incidence of psychosis later. However, there are a lot of people who can smoke weed and they're perfectly fine.
Is this like something that developed too in more recent times? Because you always hear that the THC levels of today are so much more, like people in the 70s who like, I smoked weed in high school. You give them a joint now and they're like, what the fuck? They think they're on meth, like they're like, I've never smoked anything like this before.
It's a whole other business. I mean, the ratio of THC to CBD is a big deal. There are parents who have kids with epilepsy that literally move to the state of Colorado just so they can get this, I don't know if I should say the name because it's hard for them to get and I want them to get it, but it's called Charlotte's Web. It's a pure CBD cannabis, and it is effective treatment for their kids' epilepsy.
Yeah,
People should look into this if their children have epilepsy. Obviously, talk to your neurologist. But the high THC cannabis is far and away a different drug. All right, it's creating a whole different set of neurochemical reactions in the brain, and everybody's different, right? Some people can handle that high THC. If you have a predisposition to bipolar disorder, which they now call it, or bipolar depression, then cannabis is not going to be a good idea for you. No, but it seems like you handle it well.
I just like a couple hits.
The alcohol thing is it's going to lower your blood pressure, reduce your incidence of glaucoma. There are some problems with cannabis. No, alcohol.
It raises mine.
The thing with alcohol, alcohol basically has no therapeutic benefits except for the psychological benefits that people think they're getting while they're on it, but then they get that heightened anxiety when they're not drinking. Yeah. And I'm not against people having a few drinks or occasionally even having more than a few drinks as long as they don't drive and they behave well. But the reality is, if you could cut out alcohol, you're adding years to your life, your cognition, your comedy, and let's be frank, I don't know you well enough to say this, but I'll say it anyway. You don't seem like somebody who can have just 2 a week. I think zero is going to be.
Hang on. Let's be.
I think zero is going to be.
Let's talk logistics.
By the way, your fans probably hate me right now. They're like, "Why'd you bring this asshole on?"
There's no one who has 2 drinks a week. There's not. Listen, if you're that person, you're lying to yourself. No one goes, "Well, that one whiskey was great. I'll have another one Thursday." Fuck off.
I saw Tom have 1 drink the other night.
Oh, he's dead inside.
He always says this.
I don't even think you finished your drink.
I don't think so either.
I don't think you finished your drink.
Yeah. Well, because you didn't want it, so I get it. Don't get the calories.
Yeah.
Like, that's my whole point. Is like, don't have the fucking calories. Like, what am I drinking red wine to stain my teeth? No, I either drink at a party or I don't drink at a party. Like I don't like. I'm not gonna.
You drink wine though, like it is like you're like it's 105 and it's Gatorade. Like you're just
I
like
drink wine like Alexander and I are pulling up on an elephant in 5 minutes. Like I'm like, fuck it, let's down it.
Yeah.
But also you have kids, right? You want to be around for. Do you have grandkids yet?
Soon. Probably.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I didn't even realize that. I guess they can.
How many kids do you have?
I was thinking about kids as babies.
I like your family posts. Yeah. Like I like the really irreverent family posts that you do. How many kids do you have?
I have 2.
2 kids.
You have any kids?
No.
Good. Porn stars. No, I have 2 kids. I've always said there are times you want a drink. Like I've said to my daughters, I'm not drinking, and they were like, "Oh, it's great." And then they said, "You seem very present. You seem very grounded." And then my daughter Isla at Leanne's birthday party was like, "Fetus, you drinking?" And I was like, "No." She goes, "You sure?" And I was like, "What's wrong?" She goes, "You really not drinking?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And then I was like, "Hold on, just if I want to drink, I'm gonna fucking drink." Like no one's like, we're not having problems here. Like she goes, "No, I'm just proud that you said you weren't gonna drink. You didn't." But
this is a big thing for you. No one's telling me.
No one tells me what to do.
I know. And
punk rocker.
But
I respect that.
No.
Punk rocker, lifelong punk rocker. Nobody tells me what to do.
No one tells you what to do.
You're not going to tell me what to do. Don't force anything down my throat. No, you're not going to tell me what to do. But you don't want that to get in the way of doing what's best for you, right?
I don't want.
But there's a second part to this, which is that you recently said to me when we were recording.
Yeah.
You go, "This is the first time that I am doing this just for me."
I chose to do it.
Yeah, as opposed to like it's a bet or a challenge.
Normally when I'm sober, we do this thing called Sober October. It's me, Tom, Joe Rogan, and this guy, Ari Shaffir. And we would...
this guy.
I've never met Shaffir.
Yeah.
I know Joe, obviously, but like, is Shaffir a drinker?
Yeah.
But didn't you guys literally drink him under the table on the Rogan podcast?
No, that's Shane Gillis. That's Joe's other Sober October.
Well, I don't know Shane Gillis, but if you hear a name Shane Gillis, you assume, and then an Ari Shaffir.
Shane can take him down.
Shane can take him down.
You can already predict who's going to win that.
Yeah, Shane can take him down. Ari's a real. He likes hallucinogenics.
He likes, but he's drinking a lot. We talked on the phone the other day. He's drinking a lot right now. But it's just But I think I have a weird thing about being told what to do. So I'm like, but. We always do it as a bet. Every year we don't drink in October, no drugs or alcohol, and we do a workout challenge.
Is that hard for you to not drink?
No. Not.
See, that's the interesting thing.
In the world.
A lot of people would, with your prior level of alcohol consumption, would quit drinking alcohol and would be very stressed. Even like delirium tremens.
Yeah.
So clearly,
I know a guy going through rehab right now, and he's been sober now, I think 2 weeks less than me. It was a good friend of mine, and they just took him out of the hospital part.
Oh yeah,
they leave you in a hospital for a while because you're worried about strokes. And I was like,
for severe alcoholics, they need to be medically supervised when they transition out of drinking alcohol. But that statement I have to put an asterisk next to it, because a lot of people avoid quitting alcohol because they're like, oh, you have to be medically supervised in order to do it. Look, there are millions of people who've managed to get themselves off alcohol by going to meetings that don't cost anything. Here's the other thing, and I'm certainly not telling you what to do.
Yeah.
I don't tell anyone what to do. You don't have to do it alone. Like, it's not the sort of thing that you're supposed to white knuckle on your own or do because someone else told you to do, certainly. But if you wanted to do it, there are ways to do it, and you're doing it. I think it's great that you're combining it with a lot more exercise. I like the post that you did the other day in the squat rack or the benching rack. That was great. Like, the more that you're putting out there that you're doing other things for your health, the better you're going to feel. A number of people have gotten sober from alcohol. Rich Roll comes to mind.
Rich Roll, the runner?
The runner, he's a severe alcoholic. I mean, I don't think he'd mind sharing this because he wrote a book about it, Finding Ultra, which is a great book, by the way. He went to Stanford on a D1 swimming scholarship, and he destroyed his swimming career.
Swimmers
drinking.
are all alcoholics.
Is that right?
Dude, it's a big...
Really?
Yeah, swimmers are all lushes. Swimmers and hockey players.
And hockey players. Okay, well, he doesn't... he's sober many years now, but, the running thing helped him. He also, for him, plant-based worked best. I think everybody finds a diet that works best for them.
A lot of people that go sober end up putting a lot of energy into exercise. I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
You start moving like crazy.
You start feeling good. That's the thing.
But they're also channeling like some of that anxiety
absolutely.
and emotion that used to go into like consumption of booze or drugs, and they go like, I fucking ran 12 miles, and then
you can literally move the anxiety out of your body.
That's what I do.
Lifting.
That's what I do in the mornings. Meaning when I drank, I would just go as hard as I could in the mornings, and then all of a sudden, all the anxiety would shake out of me. All the bad thoughts. I got so much serotonin. Then I'd sauna, polar plunge, and I'd be like done. And I was like, but now I just get done working out. I feel great in the mornings. I feel great at night. I'm not defending not drinking, because here's the thing: is like, all the stuff doesn't compare to the sparkle you get after like a cold fucking beer, where it just goes, it's all gonna be okay. You should dance, man.
Yeah, but in the back
feeling.
But in the back of your mind that it doesn't mean it's all going to be okay. It's lying to you.
I don't need the prostitute to tell me this is a business transaction. Say that you love me. I don't give a fuck how I get told I love you. Just say it in my ear. I don't care if you mean it.
So you'll pay for the delusion.
That's what drinking is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The delusion is
awesome. But the payment is through your biology, through your liver.
Biology, yeah,
right.
Yeah. But we're all gonna die one day.
Yeah. I used to use that I use that logic to go cage exit, diving with great white sharks. Used to ride motorcycles, bunch of dumb stuff.
Who, you?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I swam with great white sharks out of the cage too.
Yeah. Guadalupe Island.
No. I did it in Catalina.
So little sharks. No,
great white. And we did it in South Africa. Rode motorcycles to Sturgis. Keep going. Because can I tell you what I did?
You're more of a man than me, because in Mexico the water's clear. You can see them coming.
Guadalupe Island. Put that on our fucking bucket list. Okay. That's the fucking thing. But it's like a 3-day boat ride there.
Yeah. You're
Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah.
So
been there twice. Did the cage exit thing. And I don't recommend it.
I quit drinking,
like the Y
for this
chromosome.
right now.
The Y. Listen. We're all Y chromosomes in this couch setting. As far as I know, I haven't karyotyped us all, but I'm going to take the guess, the leap of faith. Look, the Y chromosome is a great thing on the one hand, but it's also what leads people to do stupid things like go cage exit great white shark diving and have an air failure at depth.
You?
Me. Yes. All caught on film. We can talk about
this
some
for
other
like
time.
Shark Week or something?
No, this was to record fear stimuli from the VR in my laboratory. Totally unnecessary.
Do you realize how different you guys are?
Yeah. So,
wait a minute.
He's from New York. He doesn't need to do any of this stuff.
Let me ask
you. Ever swam with great white sharks?
No.
Would you?
You signing up for that?
No.
Wait, what happened with the? Because we actually were discussing this in Aspen, and I didn't get through. What happened with the air failure?
All right, real quick. So
Fuck yes.
So-
a good fucking diving story
Yes.
is a fucking drinking
All right,
story.
So 2016 went out to Guadalupe Island with my laboratory, filmed 360 VR for fear stimulus that we could use back in the lab. For that trip, got dive certified. They have a surface cage right off the back of the boat, and then they drop a cage by crane about 40 feet below the surface.
Hang on, real quick. I want to. So you got certified for that trip.
Yes.
So how many hours had you spent in the water before this fucking?
No, that was year one. I did some
never
diving
mind.
in between,
Good.
so I spent a good amount of time.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you did
Yeah.
like a resort course and then went diving with great
got
sharks.
PADI certified in
Okay.
Monterey Bay, which was
Perfect.
scary as hell because
Scary
there's
as
all
fucking
kelp,
shit.
and the sharks will pick you off, and you will never see them coming.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was with my friend Michael Muller, who's a very well-known photographer down here in Los Angeles, who also he takes pictures of celebrities and sharks and does this beautiful shark art. You can see his stuff; it's spectacular. In any event, year 2, 2017, we go back to get better footage with better cameras. And on the second day, I decide to go down in the cage again. 3 divers leave and the cage exit. And the way that you don't get eaten by a great white shark down there is when you see them coming, you swim toward them. And they interpret that as, oh, I guess you're not prey, and they bank off you and they leave you alone.
So counterintuitive.
It's pretty crazy. And those guys are on scuba. Wow. I'm in the cage alone, and I've been in the cage before. Now, mind you, it's dropped 40 feet below the surface. And there are a bunch of sharks around, and guys are out of the cage, and I'm breathing off a hookah line that runs up to the surface, right? Because you're not on scuba when you're in the cage, typically if you're staying in the cage. So I'm just kind of looking at this, and I'm like, it's cold down here, but I've been here before, and then no air coming through the hookah line. Not good. So I look up, and the hookah line got kind of boa constrictored up into a bundle. So I pop up, try not to, it's hard as concrete because it's cold at that depth. Okay, it's not super cold, but it's wetsuit cold. And that thing is like concrete. So I'm like, oh God. So I spit the thing out of my mouth, go down to the safety tank in the corner, turn the thing, nothing. It's empty. Go to the other safety tank.
I'm holding my breath listening to this
turn
story.
it,
It's
nothing.
insane.
It's empty. Okay, now I'm afraid. So pop up to the top of the cage. I have a weight belt on, right? I think, okay, I'm going to pop to the surface, but there's literally great white sharks everywhere. By the way, this is all caught on video because we've got cameras mounted everywhere. We got GoPros everywhere. Those guys are out of the cage. You can shout underwater. They're not going to hear you. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to shoot for the surface, which is what the sharks like if they're chasing a tuna. We actually posted on my Instagram and elsewhere a picture of a shark.
That
a
video
of a shark taking a tuna off the side of the boat.
I saw that.
he was he recorded
I shot that.
He shot
No.
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I shot that.
With the blood in the water?
No, the one where the shark
shark-
comes
Oh,
out
the
from
tuna
under,
comes out.
under the boat and chomps that tuna in half like a razor. Okay, so I'm like, all right, I'm going to die down here though, right?
Feel
so
free to pull that up,
Decide to take off my weight belt so I don't drop to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa. And as I'm doing that, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get eaten by a shark. Yeah, we have it on YouTube, and if you go, it's on my Instagram. You can scroll. There it is. That on Instagram, Dopamine, where it says dopamine. It was back there. If you want to save, I forget how far back. Second one down. Yeah, second one down. That's me hiking. So, yeah, this happened. With sound, it's good. I don't know.
Yeah, but look at this.
Watch this. So these are big sharks.
God.
Yeah, it's a big beast, and they are very streamlined in the water.
It's the fastest animal I've ever been head to head with. They move with such intention that when you think it'll slowly, but when it decides to turn, it's turned quicker than a bull in my opinion.
And down there, what they'll do is you'll be tracking one, and you'll be watching, and another one's coming to pick you off from the bottom. So that's why you need 3 divers in the water if you're going to be out of the cage. So I decided to hook my arms under
We're
the
going to
ladder,
Guadalupe
and I'm
Island.
thinking I'll hook you up
Wait,
with
sorry. So
Muller.
at this point, you take that hook out.
I'm on top of the cage. I have no air. I haven't had a sip of air in probably 20, 30 seconds.
Okay, yeah,
but
'cause everything's
remember,
filled.
if you do a big and go under the pool water for 30 seconds a minute, you're okay. I didn't get the big gulp before.
Right.
I'm just sipping slow, and then all of a sudden, nada. So I put my arms underneath the ladder, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to shoot for the surface. And then one of the divers I was with turns around, and he sees me, I think, and he starts kicking his way toward me with carrying this big VR camera. It's like underwater vacuum cleaner is kind of how to best describe it. And I'm thinking, okay, I might pass out, but at least I'll float to the top, most likely. Finally, he gets back, this guy Brock, and we do the share air thing. So I'm finally and he's like, what is going on? But except now we have a problem because we're under there. There are 2 guys out. We're now sharing air off his scuba tank. Well, eventually those other guys get out and we bail out. We emergency'd up to the surface. And when we get to the top, everyone's like, what happened? What happened? I'm like puking up water. A buddy of mine who was on that trip, who's a former SEAL team guy, just takes me aside of the boat and he just goes, so what do you learn from that experience? That was it. Like super mellow, typical SEAL, this is typical team guy. And I'm like, check the safeties. He's like, always check the safety. So it turns out that the divers had been sipping off the safety tanks on the way down because they want more air in their scuba tanks so they can stay out longer. So here's what happened. That night, I'm like obviously anxious. That didn't feel good. But I know enough about PTSD and I know enough about anxiety and the way that the brain works that I decided next morning, and I'm not saying this because I don't claim to be tough, but I got into my scuba gear, put on my scuba tank, went down in the cage and cage exited the next day. Also caught on film if anyone wants to call bullshit on that. Now, I didn't do it to be tough. I did it because now I felt like I got past that experience. Yeah. I don't like to say I nearly died. I like to think that the Reaper came in and was like offered me a fist bump and I decided to give him the finger instead. It's kind of, but I'll tell you, by the time we got back across the US border, I thought to myself, okay, what am I doing, right? I'm like 44 years old, or 43 years old at the time. I'm, tenured professor at Stanford. I'm like, like, do I really need to be cage exit diving with great white sharks? And for me, that was the end. That was the last of any deliberate physical risk taking.
Was it very important that you did the thing the next day?
Yes.
Because I've had like not the same experience, but things that like have been traumatizing that I got to get back
playing basketball.
You have to,
basketball.
You
basketball.
have to. You have to.
One, sure.
Hang on.
You have to confront it.
Blew
again.
out his knee and broke his arm in half going up to dunk a ball.
One time? Same time?
He just thought he could dunk on a 10-foot rim.
Yeah.
So I hadn't seen the video.
Oh, you want to watch it?
No, I'd love to watch it. But
There's a video?
Hey,
but Whitney Cummings brought it up for me the other day.
Oh, she did?
Yeah, because I went over to the Comedy Store. Yeah. Jason Ellis and Whitney were doing some comedy
That's
there.
terrible.
And I said, what was this fall? But this was one of the more dramatic basketball falls I've ever seen.
It's go down. I would go down.
It's
I would
so
go
intense.
Go back.
What
I'll go to the one. That one.
What happened?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened.
Get ready. Hang on. Do you want to hear?
You still play, right?
Hang on.
Yeah,
Go
so
back.
that's
Go
key.
back.
Yeah, you have.
So as he goes,
Yeah.
his knee blows
So the
out.
leg was already
And see the arms going
Were
the
you
other direction.
man.
quite a bit more overweight back then?
Yeah, but there's also something that
You
nobody.
slipped on the way up.
Well, actually, what happened was it's I didn't slip. There's an important thing about this that nobody talks about is that right before this, we had been dunking on the hoop as we were raising it. So we're putting everything we have into. We're both like 250 pounds, and we do it at like 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9. 9, I dunked, and then we were done because you couldn't do it. So that was the end of it. It was over. And the guy was like, "I think you can do a little more." Raises it up a few inches.
So you were going to dunk the ball.
That's what I was going to do. I just did it, and then on my left leg.
You just did it on 9 too, so it was like.
So I was like, I got.
I'm cringing watching this because
that's
I've
like
had
terrible.
injuries.
Patella ruptured. That's what
the
happened
tendon.
there.
The left. The reason it looks like a slip is that this tendon ruptured, and then I land on the arm and break it. So it's a double whammy at the same
But you
time.
play
Right
basketball
there.
now.
But
This
it was
is key.
Yeah, and
This
the
is
big
key.
thing that I was scared of after this was jumping. Like in other words, you rehab. I went through the surgery, all the rehab, and even like I got obviously first you walk. Yeah, I'd like because everything atrophied when it was in the straight brace.
You got to be smart about how you make your way back.
It was a long way back. But
cringing.
the last thing that I was like, I need to do is jump. And so first you're doing like, these little bunny hops.
Yep, you have to work your way back slowly.
And then eventually played basketball where I was jumping like as hard as I could again. And the first time you're like you have that internal panic.
fuck me.
And landing hard.
This is so tough.
But then you go,
This is the key. I mean,
I'm just coming off an injury too.
Going
man.
back down on scuba wasn't
Tore
reckless.
my rotator cuff last year.
Doing what?
Trying to become. I was trying to get ready for tour, and I was going to the gym twice a day.
Twice a day?
It's 4 or 5 times a week.
Whoa.
Hitting the bench and just going crazy. And I started playing ball for cardio. And then one day I played for like a little bit too long and tore my. I'm just coming off an injury. I've been doing osteo therapy, and it's gotten me back to at least like being able to shoot. But like I can like barely do like 5-10 push-ups. And I was like going rough. So like.
Yeah, because you look like an athletic guy. So, but twice a day in the gym's a lot.
I was trying to
body
get
needs to
bulky.
recover.
One of my homies got bulky, and he was like, "Yeah, this is what we was doing." I was like, "All right, I can switch over my plan, try to do that. I'm going to try to get this way for tour." So
And shoulders are like, there's something about like every time that I've gone into like heavy, the thing that I always tweak for upper body is shoulders.
Well,
It's
the key is
thing.
to also do enough pulling. You want to make sure, like a lot of people bench, they push-ups, but you want to make sure you're doing enough rowing and things to balance out the upper back muscles. Yeah, because otherwise the shoulder joint, is designed to go in multiple directions, and so balancing out. There you are doing a nice shoulder extension.
Oh yeah, that was right afterwards.
But I
then,
think
like,
you made a really key point, Tom, which is that you work
see
your way back.
Air Segura up there, the drop. That's like
Airs.
the top right,
Oh yeah.
the video.
Is
That
that
if you hit that one, that's when no, not that one. The one that said Air Segura.
Air Segura versus Rain
Yeah,
Man.
so this is like getting back to playing.
You're in good shape, man.
Yeah, so
It
that
is
was.
now.
You are.
But that was like.
you a hooper, let's go.
But that was like. That was
Should
like.
see him play
I'm
tennis.
saying the 2 years plus to get back to playing like that.
That's
like-
crazy.
All right,
That's great.
Yeah, so we
I
made
see
the-
you out
Yeah,
there.
you take your
see you out
time
there.
going back. I mean,
You take your time.
Yeah, I mean,
Tom was a legit collegiate athlete. That's what's crazy. Were you playing football at fucking
I didn't play football in college.
the Christian place? Who's that? You
Bert
ever
just
heard
says
of
shit.
Young Life? where they
You
sit
don't
around?
know him that well yet, but like he'll just be like, Tom played in the NFL.
Like,
So
hey, can Stevie Wonder see? I knew it. I fucking knew it.
Can I tell you this?
What can he see?
Yeah,
Bro,
I think he can see.
this is what happened to me last year. I'm just gonna tell you. I'm sitting. This humble brag. I'm at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and I'm in the lobby, and I'm sitting there waiting for a car to pick me up. And I know there are a few, so I'm like on my phone like this. I'm sitting in the lobby. I look up at Stevie Wonder, and
drives up in your Uber. He's the
Bro.
Uber driver.
he walks up with that dude who's like over here, and I'm like my mouth drops. Right, I have my phone. I'm like, and he's standing like where you are in distance to me. And I'm like,
Wow.
and I want to say something, and then the guy goes, "Bathroom's over there, Stevie," and he's like, "All right." And then Stevie's like, "I'll see you in a minute, man." And he walks, and I'm like, I watch him go to I'm like, he's just unguided to the bathroom, right? So I'm like, oh, like he's taking it from there, and I was like, oh, he could see that much, he can see.
Does he have a little bit of low level vision?
I don't know.
Has to.
I think
Has
what
to.
happened. I think this is my 2 cents. You don't have to say anything so you don't fuck up a relationship. Here's my 2 cents. As a kid, they're like, yo, he's blind, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then blind became the thing, and they're like, he's like Josh Potter. He's like, well, I can see like shapes and shit, but
Yeah.
but that didn't sell. You needed to be full blind or nothing. Like they couldn't be like, this kid just has bad vision, but he's also really good.
Well, legally
yeah.
blind, right?
Legally blind.
There's a range there. Like for instance, there's a really impressive skateboarder. There are a number of them now. My friend Dan Mancina, he's a blind skateboarder. He's blind from retinitis pigmentosa, and he does legit skateboarding, railings, grind sounds. Ollies downstairs, does all of that. Uses the cane to kind of feel
I think
things
I've
out.
seen this dude.
Yeah, Mancina is amazing. Dan the Man Cena is super impressive. And there are others out there. He's actually, he has a not-for-profit to create skate parks for the blind where the obstacles make sounds so they can essentially navigate by sonar.
That's
Just
cool.
super cool. Super cool.
Kids, get off of there.
Well, I think
You know,
that
but I
thing about,
think that but they learn. Like, so Stevie, regardless of whether or not he's low vision, as we call it, or no vision,
Yeah.
like truly no vision or low vision, where they can see shapes, and sometimes they get kind of what are called phosphemes, which are kind of these like they can see light.
that's right, you're an
like there's light from
ophthalmologist.
above. I'm not a clinician, but yeah, I know a fair amount about this. They they learn to navigate through a combination of sound and it's brighter over there than it is over there. I mean, we are very visual animals.
Yeah.
But we can adapt, right? It's hard for us to navigate by smell, but we can adapt to learn.
part
to
of it
navigate
is,
by
I think,
hearing.
with Stevie is like what Bert said though, is that when you first heard about Stevie Wonder, they just go, this guy is a musician who's blind, and as a kid, your concept of blind is like cannot see. It's just pitch black. That's what
Well,
you
and he
think
wears
of.
the glasses.
And he wears glasses, but then
Yeah.
you realize that though, even with blindness, that there are like someone can be like,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't drive, you
Yeah,
can't.
like we call it low vision, or no vision,
Yeah.
but legally blind. Listen, here's what's scary. There are many people who are basically blind. They cannot see well enough to read, who are out there driving, because most of your driving is in your peripheral vision, right? You see something coming, you swerve, you didn't really see the details, right? So, nowadays, of course, as always, you go to the DMV, you wait forever, and then you do the what's called the Snellen chart, where you say that's an A, that's a 1, that's a 2, and down to the small ones. But there's a fair amount of liberty there in terms of what they let people
get away with,
see or not see in order to drive.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, people are texting now. Remember when they used to try and get people to not text and drive? They sort of gave up on that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you'll get pulled over every once in a while, but look how many people are texting.
It's all the time.
It's
Well, you
dreadful.
see
all the
head
time.
down.
Even
Like
with
when you're
Bluetooth
driving,
and where you
all
can
the
talk
time.
to Siri or whatever it's called, it's terrible. I mean, people are literally
people
texting while
who
driving.
motorcycle and ride bikes are the ones who will tell you that they get that point of view all the time, looking in the cars. And if you tell somebody who ride bikes, they're like, all you see is people looking down as they're driving cars. Like that's what they notice on their bike, because they look into the cars. They're like, oh, no one is looking up.
Yeah, you need some accountability or something.
Wait, I want to ask you about
You
fear.
need some
because-
accountability. Like my girlfriend's kids, right? We used to do this thing like, we'll give you $5 every time we check our phones, because even as an adult, right? You're like, okay, I'm not going to look at my phone, but then you want to put in something, and then you're putting in something for the map, and then you like see a text come in, and it's tough, right? It's tough. You feel that impulse. You have to stop yourself.
Can I ask you this, because you mentioned this about the shark thing, that it's for your lab and the fear, and I saw you post and I heard you talk about these studies, but what can you? I mean, I know it's obvious you can probably go into great detail. What do you learn about fear by what you guys are doing? Like, what is the lab learning about?
Yeah.
They're just going, he shit his pants.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
crazy.
That's super scary.
So the bullet point takeaway is so that people fall into bins of, there are some people who handle anxiety very well, other people who handle it very poorly. We know this, but what's interesting, one of the things that's interesting is that everybody has quite a lot of anxiety, believe it or not. But it's just that some people have tools they use to be able to work with that anxiety. Typically, the best thing to do if you have anxiety is to move your body. Anxiety is really your nervous system's attempt to move your body, right? If you're shaking, right? Before going, oh yes. It's, people talk about fight or flight. Yeah, that's one aspect of it. There is the freeze response, but the freeze response is actually an active response. You have to deliberately try and freeze. Think playing hide and seek when you're a kid, someone's coming through, or like in a horror movie, the person's hiding in a closet. That's a lot of work to stay that still.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not like freeze, like catatonic freeze. Okay?
Right.
It's not like the fentanyl freeze that you see out there. Different topic altogether. Just had to throw that in there. Fentanyl crisis is real. The thing about anxiety is that some people know how to work with it. They wake up in the morning with some anxiety, they go for a run, or they know how to, or they'll sing, right? They'll vocalize, or they'll do something to move it out of their body. People who experience a lot of, let's just call it pathologic anxiety, people who they don't have tools to move it out of their system. And so they're there trying to, they're quaking inside. And so, my lab's worked out a number of adaptive tools like the physiological sigh. We've talked about this as a natural pattern of breathing that occurs during sleep, where every so often you'll double inhale and then do a long exhale. That restores your oxygen and carbon dioxide ratios properly in your body. This is something you do just naturally about once every 1 to 5 minutes when you're awake, and repeatedly throughout sleep. But we've shown, for instance, that if people do this physiological sigh deliberately, which is, it looks ridiculous, but it's a double inhale through the nose so your lungs are fully full, and then exhale all your air out of your mouth. That's the fastest way we are aware of to completely reduce your anxiety.
So
this is a very useful tool. So if you're heading,
I'll go, I'm not breathing.
Right. There's email apnea. There's text apnea. People tend to underbreathe or overbreathe. But one of the great things also about losing weight and about drinking 0 or less alcohol is that you probably are having less sleep apnea.
Well,
apnea.
I actually don't believe in sleep apnea. I think
Really?
that's overprescribed the same way alcoholism is. I think it's such a go-to.
Underbreathing in sleep.
I think there's snoring, and then there's severe sleep apnea. Like Joe Coy has sleep apnea. Like he goes,
right, he's gasping.
Yeah, like I've heard those guys. That helps. But I think what has happened is they look at everyone and they prescribe everyone sleep apnea machines. I've not met a
I don't think
human.
people should get on the machines in most cases. I think most people should lose weight,
Lose weight,
exercise.
or get
Also,
your uvula cut.
doing cardiovascular exercise during the day will improve your breathing at night.
I'm sleeping. I have zero sleep apnea right now. Zero. I think it's a lot of it is the inflammation in my throat with the drinking and whatnot. But it's zero sleep apnea, and I have the machine. I don't need it at all. I
Keep dropping a little bit more weight. Also, you're a big guy. You're thick. Like you don't need to get Woody Allen limbs going. I bet terrible example. Gosh, we're picking all the terrible
like
examples.
Tom's legs.
Tom's legs.
Have you ever seen Tom's legs?
Tom's got some wheels on him.
No,
he's got some wheels. He dunked the basketball.
I'll show you.
You did 30 days. You did 30 days of keto, right?
What?
You did 30 days of keto.
I'm in it right now.
And how much did you drop?
Well, I think about 20 pounds.
Dope.
20 pounds in like fucking 20 in a month. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's great.
But
That's dope.
if you keep weight training, so this is the thing. Everyone used to think weight training is just for bodybuilding, which is obviously not true. Nowadays, we understand that everyone should weight train, men and women, weight train about 2 to 3 days per week and do cardio 2 to 3 days per week minimum.
Yeah.
Right. And because you have those thicker joints, you're like robust guy.
Yeah.
So as you drop weight, if you're weight training, sure, your weight loss might plateau a little bit, but you'll be adding more muscle while losing weight. Especially.
I'm curious. 'Cause I was at one point when we were doing Sober October back in the day. I weighed like 220, but I had zero muscle on me, and I look fatter than I look now. Like, and my shoulder, I had no shoulders. Now I'm a lot thicker. I'm the strongest I've ever been, probably the most muscular I've ever been in my life. And I wonder how much weight versus fat versus back then.
Yeah, we could get you into a DEXA or do something like that.
That's the thing.
You should probably also get your blood work done, right?
I get it done so fucking much.
Okay. Well, then maybe
The
not.
DEXA is definitely worth doing.
Yeah.
You should do that. You should do that this week. Dude.
And whole body MRI. I did
Yeah.
this recently. I could mention the company, but I paid for it. They didn't. I got no cut, nor did I want any. I did the whole body MRI because I'm 48 years old. I just want to see, are there any tumors on my liver? Are there any things living in there? Looks
There's
good.
tumors
Fortunately,
on your liver. I'm fucked.
luckily everything checked out. Little white spots on the brain are bad. You're allowed one per decade of life. Luckily I'd one. I'm almost 50, so I'm good. And I boxed a bit when I was younger, and I skateboarded, hit my head more than a few times. But I wasn't a real get after it type skateboarder. Like I just didn't. My body hadn't really. I hit puberty slow, so I wasn't like super aggro. If I had been in my 20s, it would have been worse.
You look like an ad for puberty right now. Like
I've been going through puberty a very long time.
And the fucking muscles.
I've been going through puberty a very long time. But I'm telling you that if you weight train and do cardiovascular training consistently, you eat well, let's just say like minimally processed or non-processed foods, let's call it 90% of the time. I used to say 80, but then Rogan said, I think it should be more like 90, 95 as you get older. And I think he's right? And then every once in a while you lapse, although some people do better by never lapsing. Well, all your health markers, how good you feel. I mean, you can feel better than when you were in your 30s. I'm 48. I feel better than when I was in my 20s because I'm sleeping better. I feel better. Every aspect of health better, and so just keep doing it. I mean, in many ways, it's like it's like a monetary investment.
It
compounds.
Does any part of you at least does it entertain what he's saying about like what you could be alcohol free?
Yeah, but
10 times funnier.
what? Okay, but here's the thing: is not 10 times funnier.
It's impossible.
No, and by the way, how fucking lucky did I get that I did? If I had never drank, I might not have the career I have.
Too many variables.
Yeah.
This is one of those too many variables. Like as a scientist, you want to isolate variables. It's not even worth doing the experiment.
Yeah.
I started to talk about people are like, what does science say about getting into nature or grounding? I'm like, too many variables. You're standing outside, there's sunlight, there's green, there's birds singing, like too many variables.
I'm
Nature
curious.
is just good for you.
Okay.
So it's like you did it. Maybe alcohol had something to do with it.
I have a definite I would say hair in my mouth. That that feeling of like there's something in there. Like I have a definite hair in my mouth of the idea of like, how long could we take this? How good can we feel? What could we put out? I think I'm 100% more present. But then I always say, what if I gotta allow myself the time to there's a part of me that I grew up with that from 22 to here that when I go, who wants a drink? And that feeling, that energy, I don't ever want to lose that. It's like a first kiss. It's so fun that you're like, what's funny is I'm trying to build intrinsic value in myself by watching him sober last night and going.
You're
like,
sober from alcohol?
No. I was sober.
Oh, okay.
I was watching him sober, and I went, man, this is fucking still awesome, and I don't need alcohol. Right now, it's a lot of growing things, but like I'm definitely drinking on my cruise. I want to drink at Red Rocks. Like there's times I want to have a cold beer. I want to be a part of I want to be back in the Matrix, like fucking feel myself plug in and taste the steak. Like I know that sober it's more valuable and you feel better the next day, but there's a fucking sparkle this sobriety doesn't give you sometimes.
What about instead of looking at it as a long arc? I mean, here it sounds cliche, but it's a real thing, like the whole one day at a time thing. Like it's just like today you're not drinking, today you're taking the best possible care of your body. And also the whole idea, like you don't have to do it alone. Like, other people who don't have issues with alcohol, let's not call them alcoholics, aren't going to be the best source of support. There are going to be some people who you look up to and respect who got sober from alcohol, who could be like, hey, Bert, like, I know you're thinking about drinking at Red Rock or the kind of nostalgia around it.
That leads into having a problem, though.
But then what about this? They can tell you there's this other galaxy of experiences that you haven't had yet.
Yeah.
Like to me, like the novelty is one of the reasons to be alive, right? It's I mean.
No, there is. Trust me, I've had a bunch of sober experiences. Dancing with my daughters at Leanne's birthday party on the dance floor, stone sober and smiling and giggling and laughing and having a great time. I love it, but I also love the other thing. I like the both. I like the yin and the yang. I like the both. I think a guy like you're so fucking smart. You can't fuck with anything but the truth. I like the lie.
So this is interesting. So this gets into the psychology of it.
That is interesting.
This is interesting because you're right. Actually, the other day, someone I respect greatly, who's highly trained, told me that I do have a problem, which is that once I see the truth, I can't unsee it. Yeah. And I actually used to both admire and resent people who could somehow just erase the reality of what they've done. Now, I want to be very clear. I am far from perfect. I've got thousands of flaws. I've made tons of mistakes. I'm far from perfect. Okay. But the thing is, once I see the truth, like this is better than that, it's hard to unsee for me. Yeah. Whereas I think what you said is very important. It's not telling like, we gotcha. This isn't a gotcha. It's I think you like to live in these alternate universes, and that universe feels really good to you. So is there a way that can be put on the shelf in the past? Sounds like that's the open question.
That's the open question.
That's the open question.
If anyone's had a fucking great time drinking, it's me. It's me. If you're saying I had to hang it up right now, easy. Not if you're saying doctor says, bro, you're done drinking. Not a fucking problem. I could go tomorrow for the rest of my life.
I believe you. It's that robustness.
Yeah.
Like you could do it. I feel like you have a whole buffet of options inside of you where you could do it to say, F you, I can do it. Or you could also do it to say, I love me, I can do it. Like it feels
right
like
now I'm doing it because I love me, right?
Right. And that's good. That's the best reason to do it.
But if you tell me, hey, just so you know, you're cool, the idea of the little...
Yeah. What about like guys like, I don't know if he was completely sober at the end of his life. How could I? Because I didn't know him. But like a guy like Johnny Cash, right? Who had issues with alcohol at one portion of his career. Yeah. Incredible musician. And then, later came back, right? Rick Rubin brought him back. He's doing 9 Inch Nails songs, like ended his career like back up, not on top, but like above the top, right? And, and he's just, it wasn't a story of this like rise and fall that we see so many times. Like the I think of life as a series of arcs, right? Like you're trying to layer on other arcs so that the bigger arc is like this, right? Yeah. Nobody wants this. We so many stories of this. It's almost like getting repetitive now. How many amazing performing artists do well, overdose, do well. It's sad, right? I'm not making light of it, but it's like clearly they didn't figure out that what worked before isn't going to work anymore. Yeah. Right. The Jim Morrisons. Like, I mean, imagine if he had kept going. What he could have done.
Imagine, it's not like their last albums were their best. I'm just like, there is a
27.
Well, this is why I have respect for people that continually renew themselves. Like we were talking about injuries, Tony Hawk, right? Now I've known Tony since I was a kid. Actually, knew his parents as a kid, and you guys know him. I know he's been on your podcast, and probably vice versa too. I mean, Tony's in his 50s, broke his femur. Crazy, most people don't come back from that. He just did the 540, aka McTwist, that he broke his femur on. He went back and did it now, having healed himself up.
Yeah.
And he's not superhuman. He's just super dedicated. And so Tony Hawk is at the top of the game still.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, but there's some guys that should tap out early. Like there's some artists where you're like, oh, man.
Tell me a comedian that was phenomenal who didn't OD or something, sadly OD or something, who just like got worse over time.
Oh, I'm not gonna do that game.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, so there were even things that these guys won't say.
Yeah.
They'll throw us under the bus with all sorts of stuff. But they won't. Okay,
Yeah.
so but they exist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They exist.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Now tell me.
By the way, for the record, don't think I'm not hyper aware that I don't want that to happen. You don't want to become.
Oh, I'm not saying that's going to happen to you.
But it does happen, and you do not want to become a parody of yourself. You do not want to be simply a meme of what people identified you as being. I think that's why you shake it up. That's why when Tom lost weight and started dressing real nice, all of a sudden I was like, he used to be very fat, and so he used to be bigger than me, and
No
used to be any fat.
What was the heaviest you were? We're about. I'm 6'1".
His heaviest is probably 295.
Nah, he's not even
Pull up
close.
fat Tom.
You're
I want you to
6'1"
guess.
too. We're about
I just want you to guess, Corey.
Yeah, 6'1".
Corey, I apologize. I told you you'd be here 15 minutes. We've been down here an hour and a half.
It's all good. I'm chilling though. I'm learning a lot actually,
Okay.
so I appreciate
Go
you
to
being.
Fat Tom scorer.
Yeah. 263.
Okay, I'm 225, maybe 220 at 6'1". You're 6 feet, 6'1", 263. Okay. Yeah. That's you're a big boy.
But he's dedicated and he lost the weight. And it was
Yeah,
impressive.
and
And by
kept
the
it
way,
off.
it didn't change his
See,
story.
I don't think you were
It's
meant
not
to
like-
be that heavy.
No, I
I
don't
don't think you were
No.
meant to be that heavy.
He's
What year was that?
That was
Look at you with
that's-
look with.
he fucking photoshopped my legs.
Look at his
Nasima.
legs. Look at
You
his legs.
photoshopped it. I pulled this up just to get this ready for you.
Sorry,
No, hold
I
on.
didn't mean to
Oh,
laugh.
you pulled a picture of your legs up for
Real
yourself.
legs to
Mark
show.
Bell and
'Cause
Nasima
I knew you
with
did it.
calves, and then Tom with
Fucking asshole.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Those are his
Who
legs.
did that?
He photoshopped
That's cruel.
Do you want to see my dick?
You have good sized calves. Okay, for the record, folks, Tom has a legit set of wheels, and that includes calves.
Fucking
He's very
do you
balanced. But Mark Bell, Mark Bell and Nasima, also friends of mine.
Yeah.
Great guys. I mean, they're big dudes.
They're big dudes. When he posted this photo, I got so many people like, "You have polio?" Like,
on.
bro, like,
My dad texted. He goes, "What the fuck's going on with Tom's legs?"
asshole.
That's terrible. That's cruel.
Oh, that's him.
That's
That's me.
cruel.
Oh, you have
I would
no idea.
never do
about-
something like that.
Oh, shut the fuck
I would
up.
never do something like to get people to say something
is
about
cruel.
you like that.
That is
You know what he
cruel.
did to me? He told America I was the most racist comic in America, and that became my branding. And I was like, and you know how hard that is to back out of? You just have to not say a word for 5 years. He did that. We're best friends. He is the one that told me I was fat the first time and started fat shaming me, and then it turned into a fucking viral campaign.
That's true.
Where we had to do a weight loss competition.
That is true.
Do you have a best friend that does that to you, or do you just got cool people that go, "Hey, how's your day going?"
Nah, I don't got
When we did Bert is Fat,
are relentless, man.
Bert, we did Bert is Fat as a campaign. We got videos from people teaching English as a second language overseas. So like a teacher in India, and he was teaching kids like, here's how you order a Coke. And then he had them say, "Bert is fat." So they'd send us the videos of these little kids being like, "My name is Bert is fat."
It was
Yeah.
That's
the
tough.
biggest. I could not go online without going like, Bert's ordering extra mayonnaise right now, and I would be ordering extra mayonnaise.
Yeah.
I want to hear about your.
Oh yeah, like those are the kids. They're all saying Bert is fat. Like, but this is after you started losing weight.
And then we both started losing weight. Yeah.
Bert Kreischer.
Bert Kreischer is fat.
Oh my goodness. Bert, I'm so sorry. That's so unfair. It's so unfair. It's so unfair.
And he's upset that I shrink wrapped his legs. I fuck dogs. I smell like shit.
You legit deleted his calves.
Yeah, you did.
You legit deleted his calves.
So
And
many
granted,
people.
Mark Bell and Nasima are both big boys. They are
boys.
built. I've trained with them before. It's humbling. But and they're at least Mark is in his slimmer state. you know.
Yeah.
But let's also be fair. Mark has been very open about let's just call it avid use of anabolics, although hopefully he's using less now. Nasima is natural, and anyone he is legit. He does not use anabolics.
Do you know this motherfucker on the left?
He's the best dude.
255
Right now, right in this bit.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
And he's like, I mean, and you can't find fat on him. It's crazy.
Tom took his pants off and looked.
I mean,
he trains hard. He trains super hard.
And he's like,
who is he?
He lives up in Sacramento, Davis area.
He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and like his fucking mobility. Because usually guys that big, you know, they're big and strong, they can't move. I mean, this dude is like.
Well, I'll tell you one thing is we're going to talk about diet and keto.
Let's talk.
I have a really good friend. He's actually a very well-established skateboard videographer. I don't think he'd mind. His name is Jacob. He knows who he is. And he had struggled. Lose weight for a long time. I've helped a number of guys lose significant amounts of weight and keep it off. Okay, I'm not a dietitian, not a nutritionist. There are a couple of things that, first of all, we should just establish that calories in, calories out matters. Okay?
Even in keto.
The laws of thermodynamics apply. So at the moment we start saying about keto, or you're talking about doing mostly meat, vegetables, and fruit, people go, oh, are you saying calories don't count? No. However, there are certain patterns of eating where you delete certain macronutrients or reduce certain macronutrients. Macronutrients are carbohydrates, fats, and protein, right? Or you limit the timing in the day when you eat them, that make it easier for some people to reduce their overall calories relative to how much they burn. Okay, so like there's a lot of debate about, is intermittent fasting better? Okay, is it gonna make you live longer? We don't know, okay? But what we do know is that if you're only eating between noon and 8 p.m., and that's comfortable for you, you can just do water and coffee early in the day, whatever, and exercise early in the day and then eat. A lot of people find that, they're sated. They feel better doing that than trying to eat small meals spread throughout the day. Okay, and there's tons of debate about this. But with keto, or with what I recommended to Jacob, and it's working extremely well for him. I'll get an update on the total pound loss, but and how well he keeps it off pretty soon. He sends me a text every day. Seems to be working really well. You want to make sure you get enough protein. This is why keto is also good. Or I'm not going to call out diets like carnivore or the lion diet, because they're all starting to modify now too. Like what used to be just carnivore or just meat and organs is now also including fruit and some vegetables. And people are broadening what it means. But here's the deal. For a lot of people, when they reduce their complex carbohydrate intake, they cut out bread. A lot of people lose 5-10 pounds just by saying no bread, just doing rice, pasta, oatmeal instead. Believe it or not, you're like, how could that be? Okay. A lot of people who then cut out those starches, they find they lose significant amounts of weight, some of which is water weight, because for every gram of carbohydrate you ingest, you hold 4 grams of water. Or approximately that. By the way, everyone should be hydrating well, okay, regardless of the diet. Getting hydration can also quell your appetite, so that's good. But the idea is that for a lot of people, just getting that protein should be the main focus. Quality protein. Quality protein is going to have high amounts of leucine, which is great for muscle repair. Most people would be wise to get 1 gram of quality protein. We're not talking peanut butter, beans, and rice. Sorry, vegans. We're talking about high quality protein like eggs, fish, meat, that kind of thing, per pound of body weight. Then making up the remainder of your calories with, vegetables. You probably can't eat too much fruit because you're keto, but some people do really well on just having like berries and meat.
Strawberries and blueberries.
Strawberries and blueberries, low sugar kind of thing. Stay away from the papayas, the mangoes, and the peaches. But then some people like myself can do pretty well doing that most of the time. But if you do a hard workout, like a weight workout where you need to replenish glycogen, well, then you can have a bowl of oatmeal or a bowl of rice and you're good. But for a lot of people, the carbohydrates are the runaway freight train. It's like the other night I had meal down in Austin with some friends in common, and we were kind of joking about the fact that, not joking, it was like you get bone marrow. It's delicious. But the moment you
hang on, were you eating with Rogan?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I know.
Wow, that's fucking. Hey Joe, just so you know, you're branded.
Okay, sorry.
As soon as I heard bone marrow, I go, I wonder who this guy was. Was the other one Lex Friedman?
Yes, actually, there was a photo that went out, so it's no secret. Okay, anyway, I try not to name drop, for obvious reasons.
I was talking to this guy about elk hunting.
No, come on. There are other people who eat bone marrow besides Joe. Anyway, sorry, Joe. Can you blame Bert for that one, Joe? Sorry. I don't know where all the traps are here with these comedians, but so marrow, right? It's delicious.
I love it.
Extremely sating. You have some marrow in a steak, you feel great. But guess what? The moment you put that marrow on a piece of toast and you taste it, you're like, I want 6 more.
Yeah.
I want 8 more. It's like you can just slurp it up over and over. It doesn't feel sating. And the reason is that when you eat carbohydrate, your blood sugar levels increase a bit more. They come down even if you're not diabetic, but that blood sugar increase stimulates your appetite. It makes you want to eat more. So a lot of people feel better not eating at certain parts of the day and then eating only during dedicated parts of the day, or reducing their carbohydrate intake. My thing is earn your carbohydrate. So if you weight train in the morning or something, you weight train in the afternoon, replenish your, eat some starches afterwards. Fine. Have some fruit, maybe even some pancakes if that's like your thing. But then you have to stop that. And then your next meal should be meat and salad, right?
Dude, and I don't know if this is what you're talking about. When I was eating carbohydrates, I would make a plate and I would eat it, and then I just keep going back to the mac and cheese and not even putting it on my plate, just getting a. But when I eat keto and I'll have broccoli and a piece of fish, I eat it and then I go, I'm done eating.
Yes.
Like I literally go, I'm done eating.
Well, your brain is foraging mostly for these quality amino acids, right? Which is not to say, listen, there are people who can do okay on a vegetarian or vegan diet. They can. And I think there's some genetic variation there, especially the endurance runners. If you're weight training hard, you need to ingest enough protein to repair your muscles. You still have to sleep to repair your muscles and do other things to repair your muscles, but you are going to require more quality protein. Now, if you're running, ultras, you're also breaking yourself down. But getting quality protein should be the main frame of your nutrient intake. And then some people do well with some berries and some starches and vegetables. Some people do mainly well with vegetables, not too much fruit. Some people who have a very high metabolism, like Nasima or somebody like that, and they're training a lot, they need to do meat, pasta, fish, bread. And then there are those kids, right, in their teens and 20s, and those mutants who can just eat and eat and eat, and they stay super lean. And let's be honest, a lot of the bodies that you see on Instagram, they're taking either low dose or moderate dose testosterone. They're sometimes also including some Anavar. I'm not recommending people do these things. Work with a doctor if you're going to explore hormone replacement. But the reality is that when you do other things pharmacologically, you can ingest more food and get away with it, and it will be metabolized. And so people who take growth hormone, for instance, significantly boost their metabolism. But if you look at people who stay lean over time, they're eating mostly non-processed or minimally processed food. So that includes things like oatmeal and rice, sure, but mostly meat, fish, eggs, fruit, quality dairy products.
Is this what your friend Jacob is doing?
Yeah. So Jacob.
Okay, I like this. This sounds good.
So what I'm
going to get rid of the carbohydrates because I fucking keep. They make me hungry.
They're the runaway train.
That's my runaway train.
You will be. And it's amazing how striking it is. And by the way, I just want to mention something about keto. There's a really incredible book and doctor named Chris Palmer from Harvard Medical School who has literally been treating psychiatric illness, certain everything from severe depression, bipolar disorder, by putting people on ketogenic diets. Basically, there's a growing movement in psychology now called metabolic psychiatry. And the idea is that a lot of mental, quote unquote, mental illness, it's a phrase that's getting a little more controversial, but mental disorders, mental challenges, mental illness are metabolic disorders that impact the brain. Because obesity and metabolic disorder go hand in hand, and metabolic disorder and depression go hand in hand. Now, there are thin people who have depression, of course, but those people also seem to do well by shifting onto a ketogenic or keto-ish diet, essentially eliminating simple sugars. So what Jacob is on, and it's working phenomenally well for him, and I have many friends who've done it this way, and it's going to sound a little bit like the carnivore diet, but it's not really that per se, is you just say you can eat meat, fish, eggs, fruit, and vegetables. And sure, a little bit of olive oil, there's a whole seed oil debate, but some quality olive oil, some lemon juice and things, but that's it. Just try that for 60 days and not a single one has come back and said, oh, that didn't work or I overate. All of them are like, I feel amazing. It takes like 2-3 days, maybe a week before they're like, oh, the morning toast is tough, or I wish I was able to put sugar in my coffee, but inevitably they all come back. They're they drop 30, 40 pounds and they keep it off. And then they use the additional energy like you to exercise more. And then now they're out the gate. They're good. Yeah. And they're like, whoa, they finally got control over their body. Like this kid I grew up with, this guy, Jacob, when we were kids, they called him Fat Jake. And he internalized that as his identity. I had Dr. Lane Norton on the podcast. He's a nutrition fitness guy.
Yeah, we know.
Lane
Yeah,
Norton.
Lane's great, right? And Lane, when he came on the podcast, he said, listen, a lot of people who need to lose a significant amount of weight need to actually think about it as destroying the former version of themselves and creating this new version. Kind of David Goggins-ish kind of mindset.
The former version, that's why I do that cleanse. The former version for me had a problem with walking to the refrigerator. I needed to change the way I saw snacking, like just going like open the refrigerator door. I don't even know why I do it. I just open it, and you got to. I have to do a fast to reset my brain to go. Oh, let's not think about alcohol the way we normally do. Let's not think about food, and then I can start a diet. But I can't just like it's hard. It's hard to pull the fucking.
So meat, vegetables, and fruit.
I'm
right?
in.
And if you think about what happens there, like there's probably a net caloric reduction. The calories in, calories out still applies. And in addition to that, by eating less carbohydrates, people are less hungry. Then they're not, a lot of people said, oh, I tried that and I tried something and a diet and it didn't work. More often than not, those people are sneaking calories in the form of carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And look, does it mean that you can't have a slice of pizza at some point in your future? No, of course you could. But what you generally find is that then people, they kind of don't want to, or you do it after you go and do a weight workout.
Yeah.
When I'm in New York, I love pizza. So I'll just like get a couple slices after I train. It's like, is it the best post-workout? No, but I'm in New York. I'm going to eat a couple pieces of pizza because I'm a human being and I want to, right? So I think the idea is that people are confused by all the diets out there. You're living proof that it can be done. And I'm not like a diet guy. I just love to see when people start using behavioral tools. Mostly there's a place for supplementation and prescription drugs, but when people start doing things like getting morning sunlight, getting great sleep, taking care of their diet, doing exercise, it's like I see what happens. Their careers get better, their relationship to themselves get better. It's almost like they're like new life breathed into them. And I didn't create any of this stuff. It's not like I'm selling them. I have no program to sell. It's just like but it works. And then especially when people discover the beauty of weight training and doing cardiovascular training in separate sessions, like there's something magic about that.
I agree.
And it's like, and I'm not going to go on to this whole thing about the obesity crisis, blah, blah, blah. I think it's all interwoven. The mental piece, the family history piece, food. I mean, Mark Bell, he'll tell you that in his family, food was like, they would just gorge themselves with food. He was a power lifter.
He's 330.
But he was fat.
He was 330.
And he was very unhealthy. And now Mark is running marathons, and I'm proud of him. I mean, he's a beast, but look at that.
Yeah, look at that guy.
Yeah, and what I love about Mark is his positivity. He's not telling people what to do. He's like, hey, I'm out here running in the heat around Davis. He's just encouraging people to do that.
He's a very encouraging guy.
He's great.
Is any of this, is any of this on your radar? Because like Tom and I are huge fans of Andrew, and there are a lot of Andrew adjacent snake oil salesmen out there that'll basically just regurgitate what they've heard him say as if they've said it their own, and then I'm sure you're aware of that.
I mean, occasionally I'll see myself advertising a product like the Jawzrsize, for which I have no relationship to.
Oh fuck! I fucking bought that because of you. I bought that.
Listen,
I know how that feels.
We told them to take it. Listen, oh no, we're gonna do it again. No, this kid, I'm telling you. So this kid, he literally said, I realize I'm not supposed to be doing this, but we're gonna keep running the ads. I do think it's good to be a nose breather unless you're talking or eating, because it does shape your facial structure will benefit, your breathing will benefit. There's a book published by my colleagues at Stanford, Paul Ehrlich and Sandra Kahn, called Jaws. This is a serious book by serious academics, with a forward by Jared Diamond and Robert Sapolsky, so some serious heavy hitters. And basically they show kids, some of the kids are, if you look at go to images and you'll see kids that are mouth breathers versus nose breathers. Look at this girl, click on this. Mouth breather prior, forced to nose breathe.
Wow.
Look at I'm doing that.
Look at the aesthetic change. Now look at if you go down to this girl, a lot of dental issues. Yeah. A lot of there's Paul Ehrlich.
These are just by switching
to nose breathing and chewing your food, like chewing hard foods. I'm gonna just sink Jawzrsize right now, not intentionally, but because they poached me to no end, and I told them to take it down. I was not endorsing that product. One of the best ways to build a healthy aesthetic and to breathe properly is to simply just chew your food really well. There is something, I have no financial relationship to it, called mastic gum, which is like a plant sap that they use in Cyprus, where you can buy it. It's like a hard gum when you chew it, and that will will alter the structure of your face in ways that
Mastic?
are, for women, mastic gum. Women and men, the aesthetic changes are really positive and impressive in both men and women. Because
I'm buying mastic gum.
I love mastic gum.
I'd love a jawline.
You know, and
But go back to the because there are tenets that you.
Sorry, Jawzrsize, but
I'm
you guys
wondering
asked
if
for
this
it.
is if this lands on your radar. Like Andrew is a big proponent of morning sun, of sauna, of cold plunge. Not doing cold plunge after heavy weightlifting training.
Correct. Wait
Because
6
the
hours.
atrophy that the swelling of the muscle or whatever, it needs that to grow.
But other times it's great for you.
Like but I'm curious. Have you ever heard of it? Like morning sun? Do you do morning sun?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Get sunlight
get
in
up.
your eyes in the morning.
Yeah, I get up and I've been hiking since I moved here, and like,
Love it.
you know, taking my dog on walks and stuff like that.
Your
you
dog's
know.
amazing.
Thank you.
The best bulldogs. But yeah, amazing. So when
I don't have no blind on my room window.
the sun comes through.
So as soon as the sun comes up, I'm
Do
like,
you get
yeah.
inspiration for your music from nature? Where does it come from? Like where do you find the work you do? Like where does it come from? Like are you pulling from conversations from?
Right now, I think I'm pulling from, or most of my life, I'm pulling from like my early childhood, which was like growing up in church. My mother played several different instruments, and the connection that I learned from playing in church, seeing people, I play a chord and people just start running around dancing and going crazy, like that kind of power like really inspired me to want to continue to create. And now I think about that often, like what's the chord or what's the movement that's going to make people go woo and they want to dance or whatever that emotion is, and I try to get to that as much as possible. I like to say it's like spirit music, you know what I'm saying, like soul music, and that's what inspires me the most. Yeah.
You guys are playing live these days in Los Angeles. Whereabouts?
At the Masonic Lodge tonight. Hollywood, at the Hollywood Cemetery.
I want to go see it.
When do you go back out with your band?
In October, we go out mostly through Europe, for about a month. And then I'm going to have a thing. I started a foundation last year called Live and Love Foundation, helping to underage, underprivileged youth. And we're throwing a concert sometime late December. That's probably the next gig I have in LA.
With your band or by yourself?
My band and a few friends and artists. It's like a jam session.
It was when I saw you at the Blue Note.
Yeah, that was my band.
That's fucking.
Yeah, the Funk Apostles. Yeah.
The Funk Apostles. It was.
That sounds
it was
cool.
so.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, he did this thing, and I said this to you. I'll say it again, but he did this thing where he went from station to station, emoting a song to that group, and like he'd go to the backup singers, and then to the drums, and then to the bass, and then to the guitar, and he'd emote it, and then he'd come back and he'd feel what they were playing, and then I think you said something, I feel like it's Sunday, we need the spirit in us, and then all of a sudden, I mean, everyone's moving. It was so fucking powerful that I was like, I don't have the ability to do that in stand-up.
Yeah.
I wish I could figure it out, but it was so fun to watch that, like, I'll be back for that fundraiser.
Yeah.
To
man.
watch
I
it.
want to go.
Yeah.
It's cool. Jazz is
I love live music.
I'll tell you what, and I don't want to. I know Tom's probably on a hard out soon, but like, and I've kept you way longer, Andrew. I listen to you while I sleep, so I could talk to you all day long. But the reason I went to this jazz festival, and I told this to Tommy, was that I found myself listening to the same 9 albums, and I thought that's how you become an old man. Is you never let it change. And I was like, I want to find new music. I got into this band called Goose. It's a jam band. I just discovered them. I said, I'm going to fucking focus. I'm going to try. And when I went to the Jazz Festival, I said, I want to try to like new stuff. Is there something about maybe learning at like getting into new shit that keeps your brain young?
No, absolutely. The great physicist, Richard Feynman, is a Nobel Prize winning physicist. It's one of these guys that, in addition to having Nobel Prizes, he started learning to paint and draw later in life. He played bongo drums. He was always challenging himself to do new things. And he had a very young, playful spirit his entire life. We know that when you are in a process of learning something new or in the presence of novelty, that your entire set of brain networks shifts the way that it works. Like nothing else looks the same after going and doing something truly novel, right?
Yeah.
Healthy, safe novel, ideally, right?
Yeah.
But health promoting safe novel. The reality is that as we age, we get quote unquote set in our ways, and people become curmudgeons, and there's nothing worse, right? It's this idea that, it's an emphasis on the bad, but it's also that we can predict everything that's going to happen. It's like here we are heading into an election year, and it's already wild, and you can feel the cynicism set in. There's another way to look at all this, which is, okay, our choices are perhaps not what we would want, right? But like we're on the front edge of human evolution. Like this country needs to evolve forward. What's possible in the positive direction that can happen? Having some positive anticipation and learning, some sense of hope, like all of that is related to those dopamine circuits. And when the dopaminergic system is cranking, the brain is bathing in what are called neurotrophins. These are things like brain-derived neurotrophic factor that foster new connectivity in the brain. Think back to childhood when everything is new and exciting. You put your kids to sleep at night and you're like, what's tomorrow? Tomorrow's the first day of school. They've been to school before, right? Unless it's the first time they're starting. They've been to school before, but it's all this possibility. As we get older, become a bit cynical. We're not bringing in new stimuli. Like the great Joe Strummer, Clash, but also Mescaleros, huge fan. One of my favorite things about him, in addition to being an amazing musician, is he was a bit of a philosopher on this topic. He used to, his famous Strummer quote, they actually call it Strummer's laws: no input, no output. Meaning, unless you're getting new inputs into your system, you really can't expect your comedy to get better, the way you interact in any relationships to get better.
Fucking love that.
New inputs, right?
New input, no output.
His thing is no input, no output. Meaning,
Someone write that down for me. I'm putting that in my gym.
Strummer's law: no input, no output. When you like doing this podcast today, for me is going to be subconsciously and consciously in addition to the podcast that I do on music and the brain. It was coming up in a few days, and so I wouldn't have predicted it. So placing yourself into novel environments that grow you, force you to be a beginner, force you to think about things differently, hear different perspectives. This is the opposite of becoming set in our ways and becoming a curmudgeon where you think how everything's going to work out. And this is even true for optimistic people who don't engage in new things. They're like, oh, I like that food. I like, because within your keto diet, it's going to be mostly the same foods, but occasionally you might want to change the types of foods that you eat within that. Yeah. That'll keep the novelty high. Also with working out, I have a kind of a staple. About 75% of what I do is the same thing I've done: run 3 times a week, lift 3 times a week, same movements. But it's good. About 30% of the time, mix it up. But also, like you said, listen to music. Sometimes work out in silence. Sometimes listen to comedy. Lately I've been going and listening to a lot of comedy. Went down to the Comedy Store the other night and listening. I'm like, wow, I'm learning from this and thinking about the brain. And I have no aspirations to be a comedian, thankfully for everybody. But the idea is that when you're bringing in new experiences, it changes the potential of your brain to get better at what you already know and do. And of course, learning new things is fun.
Trying new things is so important. Yeah,
I
always try to sign up.
Fucking flying helicopters.
Yeah. And what I try to do is
you race cars.
Yeah,
right?
but what I try to do is embrace I think I heard you say it, that there is this part when you're doing something new at the beginning that's challenging, difficult, helicopter flying, and you just embrace the fact that
Anxiety.
You suck at it.
Yep.
And that it's hard as shit.
Yep.
Because the helicopter stuff is actually so much different than fixed wing, than a plane. Way more engaged. And there's times when you're just doing, whether it's classroom or what you're doing, the pre-flight check where you're like, motherfucker, it's hard. What? But you just go, you know what? Let's just go through this whole thing, and you embrace it and you get through it, and you're like, you're embracing the fact that it is going to be this hard, but also I'm flying with this guy who's got 3,000 hours and he is doesn't even, it's automatic. You're like, oh, that comes with experience.
Absolutely.
So you just kind of
absolutely
suffer through it, but
the friction, frustration, those are the signals to tell your brain to change. If you think about it, if you could do everything, I can't dunk a basketball, my 3-pointer is terrible, but let's say 3-pointers, because I'm not going to dunk a basketball most likely, but maybe. I watched that video, Tom.
I gave it a shot.
Yeah. Okay, so 3-pointers, right? 3-pointers. So let's say I want to get my 3-pointers to maybe 65% make, swishing them 65% of the times. It's going to be frustrating. But guess what? If I made every single one, the brain doesn't change. It doesn't change. Okay, if there was some magic like in the movies, where the ball gets redirected and it goes through the net every time, my brain's not going to get any better. Every time you miss, every time you have a fail, that frustration cues the attention systems of your brain and deploys chemicals in your brain for what? For on the next trial and the next trial for your brain to be able to modify itself. So when you make a mistake and you're like, oh, you feel that frustration is essentially opening the window for your brain to get better. That's the way to think about frustration.
It's a really good thing.
Yeah. It's a great thing because if your brain could succeed in doing things, why would it change? It won't change because the map is already there of how to do it. But the map isn't there. And so, comedians bombing, you don't want it to like deplete their self-esteem to the point where, they quit. But, those times when you thought something would land and it didn't.
No, bad sets help
frustrating.
you.
Or
bad sets really help you.
Or it's just not, that's the magic of the brain, which is that it's the only organ in the body that can direct its own changes.
So for the rest of your life, try new things.
Pursue new things.
I'm doing that today.
Try new things. What I will say is for younger people listening, it's good to get proficiency at one thing that will allow you some forward progress that will give you the option and opportunity to try other things. It doesn't mean doing 50 things or every year you're
Never finishing
changing your
anything.
major, not changing. Like I have to be careful how, I had a certain criteria in life for a while. It was like, people who finish things and people who don't finish things, right? Be a finisher, learn how to be a finisher, but because that also meant that you worked through the frustration, take on challenges. And then, once you have a vocation and you're hopefully making an income that's sustainable, then you can try new things and shift your vocation, right? But if you're constantly changing up what you're doing, that's not the idea. The idea is to pick something that hopefully does good in the world and that you enjoy and that you can survive on. And then, try new things, learn new things, talk to different kinds of people and really learn to listen, and I listen to all sorts of podcasts now. I listen to classical music. I've been listening to Gregorian chants lately because I'm like studying for this Music in the Brain episode. And I'm like, wow, there's something fundamental about chanting that's like getting into that like real guttural tones. But I've also been listening to like Russian choir music. And I'm like, this is beautiful. And I'm a punk rocker, grew up in that. Will be till the day I die. I've been like, Rancid, Bouncing Souls, Stiff Little Fingers, The Clash. And I'm thinking, wow, there's this whole galaxy of other music like jazz that I definitely need to listen to and tap into. It will, because it changes you. It makes you different for all the other things that you already do.
I got to ask you one last thing about fear before we go. You in the lab thing, you were trying things to, I think, elicit fear with subjects.
Yes.
And you would tap into some of the regular things, which was like sharks, heights, etc. Is there anything that people are more, like percentage-wise, more people are scared of that you find when you try these things than others?
Yeah.
Like, is there something that almost everyone is scared of this?
Well, the one thing I can do to make anyone panic is hypoxia. I can deprive you of oxygen. I can have you breathe air that puts you. Yeah,
That works.
That sucks. Yeah. There's one stimulus in the VR that works for just about everybody. And people go, oh, the VR, like I'm not afraid of the sharks. True, some people aren't afraid because they're not real. But if you're terrified of sharks, like the sharks coming through at you in VR is terrifying.
So sharks is a big one?
Sharks was not a high percentage. So about 30% of people really don't like that.
VR is very real, by the way.
It can be.
We had a pair of goggles. That you could click to YouTube, and you sit and you'd look and you'd be like, wait, I'm really going in a hot air balloon.
Oh, dude, I thought
it would fucking VR is real.
I thought I was at a blow bang in a bowling alley, and it was totally because of VR. It's incredible.
There's a stimulus that I can't get. It's hard to. I think I missed something in there, but I think I heard it. Okay, we won't go there. There's a stimulus in the VR where we have you sit with your fingers on two keys on the keyboard, and you're looking at a screen, and all of a sudden out of the screen comes hundreds, if not thousands, of spiders. And they stretch out behind you. They're not on you yet. And they go behind you. And then they start coming up your body and up your back and on you.
This is all in VR?
Yeah, and your job is to keep your fingers on the keyboard as long as you can.
Oh, fuck.
Now, my friend Jeremy Bailenson, who runs a bigger VR laboratory at Stanford, he's really a pioneer in the world of VR. They have them wearing suits that are haptic suits. So they're actually getting the tap, 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 tap of the legs of the spiders on you. This is absolutely unnerving for people, even people who like spiders, those mutants that like, the tarantula walking on them. It is absolutely unnerving. You can tell by my bodily reaction. It's horrible.
And what was the thing that you said that didn't your lab do something with Goggins?
Yeah, so we brought David out. This was in about 2017.
Are you familiar with David Goggins?
Yeah. The David Goggins.
Who's gonna
David
carry the
Goggins,
boats?
former Navy SEAL, who used to be real fat, ran himself thin. Actually, he went Buds, I think he probably
Oh,
got.
no, yeah, I've seen him, actually.
Goggins wrote
Yeah.
Can't Hurt Me.
Seals.
Yeah.
He's one of these, So think about Goggins. He
Crazy.
is every bit as intense as the. I don't want to say his persona because there isn't like an off-camera version. Of
Yeah.
it. He's just always like that.
Yeah.
And he came out and he was like, I don't like sharks, and we're like, okay, well, who wants to go first? He's like, I'll go first. Okay, so that's very telling. And then when we asked him, rate your fear on a scale of like 1 to 5, he was like 0. Okay, so for him, like he's learned to kind of suppress all of those responses. But what's great about David is, I've done a couple of work days with him, and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the group is flagging, everyone's kind of like, and he's just like, no, let's get it. He's changing into shorts. He ran to the airport. He ran from where we were located to the airport. It's got to be like 20 miles. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, with his bag. Well, it wasn't a big bag, but he ran to the airport. Like I've heard, I'm running to the airport. Goggins actually runs to the airport.
This is like a daily. It's not like a once in a while.
Cameras on,
Goggins
cameras
is-
off. That's him.
That's great.
Yeah, amazingly impressive.
There's a couple
guy.
real deals out there, and
Yeah,
Goggins is Andrew's one of them easily,
Yeah.
but Goggins is definitely fucking one of them.
David is he embodies drive and overcoming one's emotions and narratives of don't do it, I don't want to do it today or that. Have you seen the pictures of his feet? His feet look like they were mangled by a meat grinder. He runs on those things. He's just basically run his toenails off. Yeah.
He really tough.
Those team guys are built different. Yeah, there they are.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
But we're talking like
Oh,
he does like the ultra marathon shit, like run for days.
that's
And
insane.
he pushes that well, I wouldn't say pushing it in that it's not true, but that idea that like as soon as you hear that voice, it's like stop. It's like you got like 40% more in there.
Well, it's the way team guys are trained. I've done some work with those guys, East Coast and some Canadian spec ops. Like the way Jocko describes it is great, which is, the whole thing of getting them cold, wet, and sandy during buds, right? They're selecting for people that somehow like really know how to embrace the suck. Like by time they land on the beach in an op, their guns are all wet. They're filled with sand. Like nothing is optimal. We hear so much about optimal. Their starting point is where most people are like done, long since done. And that's where they sort of like, okay, day begins. And so they've like, it's almost like a car that has an extra gas tank that you weren't aware of, right? Because they learn to like run on empty and then they discover this reservoir of fuel.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, what they're selecting for.
Who do you think would last longer as a Navy SEAL, me or Tom?
You mean in the training, in Bud's training?
We're talking starting day one. Who rings the bell first?
Goodness. I think you guys both make it through if you're challenging each other. If you're challenging each other.
We know what our third
But
activity
you know what it
is.
is I have a good friend who was an instructor at Buds for many years and then did a bunch on the Tier 1 East Coast teams. Very highly respected there. And he says that there are 3 features of guys that make it through Buds. That people either have 1, 2, or 3 of these things. Played a varsity sport in high school. Okay. That seems to be common to a lot of them. Not necessary, but seems to be sufficient, in many cases. Not always, right? Doesn't always get them through. 2 was suspended or sent to detention a lot in high school, right? And then I forget what the third one is off the top. But it's this kind of like...
Juggle.
Kind of like... I think a lot of it is this like they get into this competition with the instructors, like the guys that get through are like, go ahead, make it colder. Like you can't kill me kind of thing. Like I think so that seems to be a feature of the ones that make it through. Whereas it turns out the pro athletes, the star athletes, you hear this a lot, get to Buds, the guys that get the frog tattoo before they get there, you hear this, they get there and they're used to working under perfect conditions. They're used to being the star.
Right.
So like what we don't see, we see them running with the boats. What we don't see are the chafed groins, right, from all the sand. We don't see the fact that a lot of them have the flu while they're doing it. We don't see all the stuff like, and I've heard it's the micro things, the splinter in your foot. It's that stuff that's like
The sand in your sock.
Yeah,
would make
like
me
it's
crazy.
all of that stuff. They're trying to tap into like every pain. Like think about a blister. I hate blisters. Blisters take people out of Buds. No joke. You think a blister, how could it? It's got to be the 20-mile run. No, it's the 5-mile walk with a blister with sand between your toes, and you don't know when it's going to stop. You don't know it's 5 miles. That's, I think, what culls the average
Yeah,
person.
that makes sense.
So the answer is you both make it through.
Yeah, we make it through.
That was I think we sell it to Netflix, and it starts me and you with our arms over each other, and it just says Buds.
And I think it's cool because they, great admiration for what they do. I mean, and all the spec ops folks, I mean, they're out there like they love the work.
Yeah.
This is the thing. Like they're out there, the really important stuff, all of it really, we're not supposed to know about. All the stuff, the Bin Laden raid and stuff became popularized, but they're out there doing all the work. Like they're tip of the spear. They're first in before standard infantry, and they're not coming back asking for anything. Right, they do it for the love of the work.
That's why Bert would not like to be a SEAL, though.
I think I get along with,
excuse me, I need a little bit of press about what I did.
Oh, they don't. You can't get.
You don't like
an award at Montreal.
Yeah, he doesn't like when he does GoFundMe
and
people don't go thank you for the donation.
They're not supposed to seek press.
You ever given a GoFundMe? Do they go remain anonymous or put your name up there on the board?
When I donate,
yeah,
typically I remain anonymous. Yeah.
Okay.
I told
then
you.
Hey guys, from now on I'm just going anonymous, and that was me.
He's upset that he made a nice, generous donation and that the people didn't acknowledge him.
Well, you know what's interesting? So I had Bob Sapolsky on the podcast, Robert Sapolsky, and he knows a lot about testosterone and primate behavior. So in humans, they've done these experiments. Everyone thinks if you take exogenous testosterone, that it makes you a jerk, but it turns out it just makes you.
I'm taking 3 a day.
Yeah, no, it takes you more. It just makes people more the way that they are.
Wait, hold on. What is it? What is it?
Well, a lot of people think that testosterone makes people
aggressive.
Testosterone, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you want that. Kids are doing it so young now. Like you can. There's a way to do it safely. Talk to a doctor, or don't do it at all. Et cetera. Anyway, with that said, Sapolsky was telling me there's a study that shows that if you give people testosterone, in this case men, you give them testosterone, and you do an auction, a philanthropic auction for a good cause. The guys who take more testosterone start competing to give more money. They become more altruistic.
That's me.
So basically they'll compete over anything, but if you're playing checkers, they'll become more competitive over checkers. And if they're a jerk, they become more of a jerk. And if they're funny, they become funnier, and so on and so forth.
I bought 4 nuns a $7,500 trip to Cabo. So I was like, fuck, you're not going to beat me. I was like, and they're like, Leanne's like, I don't want to go to Cabo. I go, Sister Dawn, you want to go to Cabo? She's like, I've never been. And I was like,
you're going.
I sent 4 nuns to Cabo, and I gave them drink coupons for the fucking hotel because they take a vow of poverty. Yeah. I'll fucking get
Very
competitive
nice.
throwing money around.
Speechless.
Incredible.
This has been
Amazing.
I apologize. We've had you here this whole time. I said, hey, well, come in. I just wanted to introduce you to everyone. But I'm telling you, when I sat with you guys in the bus, did I not tell you we're all sitting with greatness?
I'm so glad to be a part of the hang, man. I learned a lot.
I listen. I do listen to them all the time. I love your podcast.
Thank you.
And when you were on Two Bears, I was so jealous. My big get today was I wanted us to all try nicotine. Because he says nicotine is really good for your brain.
Well, no, it raises blood pressure.
This is why I shouldn't paraphrase.
It's a Bert summary. You gotta like.
Most of you smoke cigarettes?
No, don't
When's
do
the last time you
nicotine.
had nicotine? Hold on, it's really good for you.
No, Dr.
It
Huberman
staves
said-
off amnesia.
Yeah.
Not amnesia.
No, listen. So
Alzheimer's.
nicotine can be a cognitive enhancer, but smoking, vaping, dipping, or snuffing not good for you.
It is if it's cabbage.
The troches the pouches that people take in older age there is some data that can offset Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, but it does increase blood pressure and it increases vasoconstriction. So this is, you can scare all the guys by just saying vasoconstriction, not good for sexual performance, right? Yeah. This is the reason people take things like tadalafil, Cialis, or Viagra for vasodilation. But nicotine, occasional use of nicotine delivered through something other than smoking or vaping, dipping, or snuffing, which can give you cancer, can be a cognitive enhancer. I don't recommend people run out and embrace that right away. There are milder ways to increase cholinergic drive in the brain for focus, things like alpha GPC, et cetera. But the main one is get the behavioral tools right, learn how to focus, learn how to engage, learn how to put the phone off.
Again today because of him.
But nicotine, it's true. Later in life, I know a Nobel Prize winning neuroscientist who chews Nicorette. He's in his late 70s in order to maintain cognitive function. So there's something there.
So
Try
maybe
it
some
next time you
Nicorette.
play piano.
See what happens.
A little snuff, a little zen.
Maybe a little Nicorette gum.
Yeah.
Maybe not before a concert, just because.
No. Next time you play by yourself, try it. I'm gonna try it on stage because Rogan swears by it.
Really?
Like, he'll hit a vape pen or smoke a cigarette before he goes on stage. He likes nicotine in his head before he goes on stage. I have not had nicotine in 20 years. I've not had it, and I had a problem with it.
Okay, well, watch your blood pressure. I don't know what your blood pressure is, but as your weight comes down, it's going to open up more opportunities for that. Next time we talk, we should talk about the incredible data, again, not recreational use, of I'll just say data, clinical trials on macrodose psilocybin for helping people get over their craving for alcohol, but expand brain plasticity.
Macrodose.
Yes, macro,
So if I
not
show
micro.
you a mushroom bar, will you point me out how much a macrodose is?
Yeah, I'm talking about a clinical trial, Bert. I'm not talking about recreation.
I don't need to do it in a clinic. I'll do it in my house.
Okay.
Do you like mushrooms?
It's nice.
Yeah, I can give you a bar of mushrooms. Andrew, do you want some mushrooms?
A clinical macrodose
I'll wear it.
of psilocybin was transformative for my mental health.
You did it?
I did.
You did it?
I've talked openly about the fact that in clinical trial, I've done macrodose psilocybin and I've done MDMA 4 times.
Wait, macro is a lot.
Macro is above 4 grams.
Oh, okay. I'm not looking for macro. I'm looking for micro.
Yeah, macro is the best. The data, not the best. Take that
Tom
out.
did it and
Don't
got
take
chased
that
by
out.
a wolf in the Four
The data
Seasons.
say that macrodosing psilocybin through a clinical trial can have positive effects on relieving depression. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to talk myself into
All
a
right.
corner here.
Look, this was great.
This is great. This is a
I wish
new-
we could do this.
I would do this for another 2 hours,
Yeah.
but
It's 2 bears, 1 musician, 1 nerd, basically.
you're not a nerd.
well,
You're fucking. I'm being serious. I'm really happy that like sometimes you'll run into people like our fans that'll be like, yo, I fucking stock groceries or whatever. I run it, and when I see a new episode every on Monday, you got me up through lunch. Thank you so much. And that
Thank you.
but I'm saying this to you guys. I'm so glad to know there are people like you that do what you do so differently than what we do, so that we can all kind of get to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because Andrew, I'm telling you, I live my life on your under the pillars you put out there, because I do with everything I do except for alcohol. I always skip past that video because it's so boring. But like, and Cory, you are a true talent, and I'm being serious. It's so cool we got to have this, because I found you looking for the thing to keep me young, and so I feel like this has been a great podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks
awesome.
for having us on.
Thank
Delighted
you.
to meet
Thank
you.
you.
and
Very nice to meet you.
yeah,
Gracias,
huge
primo,
fans.
por venir otra vez. And
Oh, he does it too.
well, his paternal grandmother and my maternal grandmother are second cousins.
But I thought you were saying because you guys looked alike.
No, Argentine Peruvian. No, we are
because
actual cousins. We did 23andMe.
They both
Look at the Wikipedia.
Yeah, they
We're-
both like.
They haven't updated
You
mine.
guys look alike, except you look like Tom's wish mirror, where he's like, "That's what I would be."
I want to be able to dunk a basketball.
It
I'd
was,
like to be funny. Like I'd like to learn how to be funny.
They both
Can
go
comedy
back
be
to-
learned?
Yeah, Tom. I taught Tom.
Yeah, he did. He took me on the road. It's true. That's good. That's good.
You guys are the best. I'm a huge
It
fan.
was a lot of fun. All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Awesome guys.
See you
Thanks for
guys.
having me on.
Bert and Tom and Bert. One goes topless while the other wears a shirt. Tom tells stories and Bert's the machine. There's not a chance in hell that they'll keep it clean. Here's what we call 2 bears, 1 cave.